Howdy doodly, folks. How we doing? Just waiting for Kev and then we'll get started. Watching the speeches from yesterday and today. I guess I can make a whole big segment out of it. Let me cut off first. Hope we're all doing well. Hope we're all keeping safe and staying well and all that shit. I don't know. What should we do whilst we're waiting for Kev? What have I got in the bank on YouTube? We're watching in the meantime. Let's have a look. Oh, I have been sent a meeting.
Hello there, No Justice MTJ.
How you doing, Kev? You alright?
I'm very well. Happy New Year to you.
Likewise. What'd you get up to?
Absolutely nothing. I am a sad old man. How about you?
I was actually ill, so that party that I told you that I was going to go to, I actually ended up not being able to go to, which is sad, but hey ho.
So basically, you lied to me. Is the point?
I did lie to you,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, as we're talking about British politicians, that seems only appropriate.
True, absolutely
Yeah.
true.
So, yes, I was just telling everybody I was focusing a little bit on America yesterday. That shit show.
Oh my god, I just watched the 8th vote. It's funny, isn't it?
It's brilliant. It's fucking genius. Look, people always tell me about how great the American system is, but actually they've invented a thing that I'm surprised it didn't break over the last century, to be honest. Like, I'm surprised this didn't already happen several times. It's amazing.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the only thing I find frustrating about it is how it, like, essentially it has. I mean, it hasn't quite proved the force the vote people correct, because the force the vote people wanted to get a floor vote on Medicare for all, which was the dumbest possible, like
thing that was definitely
concession you
going
could
to
get.
lose. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of getting concessions by using this leverage, which I think, you know, the Freedom Caucus people are at least trying to do. But the problem is that they've gone the other way. Instead of requesting things that don't matter, they don't. I don't think they really care what gets requested. I think at this point, the GOP, the Freedom Caucus, just want to get Kevin McCarthy ousted, so literally anyone replace him. And I don't even know why. I don't know their reasoning. Like, they got loads of concessions on, like, committee places and on was it the debt ceiling they wanted concessions on?
Something like
So
that.
I think they got both of those concessions already. What? So I don't get it. Why they're still holding out? It doesn't make any sense. It's just become a fucking circus.
It basically is, yeah. But it's a fun circus that keeps going round and round and round and round.
True.
And that's fun for me. What also goes round and round and round is my crippling fear of poverty, which you are alleviating very briefly for everybody. Thank you very much. We are close to a hype train on my channel, and you should give me money. You should also give No Justice MTG money, because we're both poor as fuck.
It's the cost of living crisis means you have loads of spare money to spend on Twitch subscriptions. So given that fact, why not take that extra money and spend it on myself and Mr. Kevin Logan here? If you don't have $3.99, you become a member on YouTube for me for 99p if you really want.
Yeah. The stream is just at the point where you are talking about super chats. Well, thank you. Well, while you are on a hype train, everybody, thank you. If we get to level whatever of the hype train, I will finger Rashid Sanook, which is his real name.
So we've got Rashid Sanook and Sir Keith Starmer KC.
Yeah. Indeed. Well, you mentioned there the cost of living crisis. That's clearly not the actual crisis in Britain. Clearly, it's a lack of mathematics.
Oh, true, exactly. Like the one thing that was standing between Britain and future economic productivity gains was 17-year-olds learning about binomial expansion. That was clearly the big, like, missing link in the chain to our productivity crisis. 255 for the gifted sub, thank you.
255. Stop going onto other people's channels and doing stuff. You are my bitch. Okay. This is an outrage. Anyway,
apparently gifted to Pol Pot specifically.
Well, I did that. Yeah, I literally just before you joined, as it were, he gifted a sub to Pol Pot. So I don't know if this person. Do you know Pol Pot? I presume it's not the real one.
I was assuming that it was. I was like, oh, I'm quite brilliant. And hopefully my stream will get endorsed by the Communist Party of Kampuchea, and we're all good to go.
True, but I mean, he probably will just kill everybody.
That's true. I mean, I'm not wearing glasses, so it might be all right.
True, very true. Anyway, so like you say, we've got Keith Starmer, we've got Rashid Sunak, and we've got Mick Lynch with James O'Brien talking to idiots on the radio.
Excellent.
I will allow you as the better of the two people involved in this conversation to decide which order you want to do them in.
Should we do Rishi and Keith together at the very least? Because then I get to clip it all together as one big segment.
Okay, so which one do you want to do, Keith or Rishi?
Should we start with Rishi as he's the actual prime minister? So it's like,
is he?
Like, I mean, in de facto, not really de jure, but de facto, and that way we get to. It's like a call and response.
It is, yeah, basically. Anyway, the human-shaped creature that you see there on the screen, everybody, that person, their name is Rishi Sunak, I believe. And apparently they're prime minister, which, I mean, I had a shock the other day because I was going through some stuff to do my end of year roundup thing a few days ago. And I came across this person. Can you tell who the fuck is this Elizabeth Truss?
I know, right?
Who's that?
I've never.
Apparently, she was prime minister or something.
Go through so many of them. Like, do you remember the small period of time when Nadeem Sahai was Chancellor of the Exchequer?
Look. If in the year of 2022 you weren't Chancellor of the Exchequer, were you even there?
Exactly. There was a small time when we had Anne-Marie Trevelyan as Education Secretary. They just keep coming and going.
Yeah, and they get the sign-off bonus for having been there for like 4 days.
I know, right? Like Liz Truss getting to appoint fucking lords and shit.
Yeah, exactly,
absolute embarrassment. If anything can justify Keith Starmer's desire to abolish the lords, then that's it.
Well, indeed, yeah, and the fact that the level of corruption involved in all of that is
the Michelle Mone stuff as well.
Yeah, and it turns out her banker husband gave £700,000 to the Tory party, and then they got millions of dollars in public contracts and basically stole tens of millions of pounds of public money in essence. Yeah. Ooh. We're a super cool country, okay? So America, look, this is very much a kind of America. You might feel shit, but we got you. Okay, this is like a little shot in the arm for you. At least this isn't happening. You're just doing vote after vote after vote after vote, which in many respects is kind of boring. Which this is also boring. Though.
Well, imagine if we had the same thing for the prime minister. Imagine if there was like a tiny margin and there was just like, but I guess we kind of did. I guess we kind of did have that, except it was just amongst Conservative membership. And
exactly, yeah. The 12 people who put Rishi Sunak in, I'm sure can be trusted. Yeah.
Yeah, quite.
He didn't even have a majority of his own MPs, for fuck's sake. Ridiculous.
No, he didn't.
Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Next time the leader probably gets chosen by minus people. That's how many people would have. If the trend continues.
Quite frankly, I think we should go back to distributing swords in rocks and objects like that, and then like getting maidens to distribute swords from inside lakes.
That is no way to form a government.
I mean, it's clearly a better way to form a government than what we've been trying for the past 6 months.
Look, it comes from a mandate from the masses, not for some farcical aquatic ceremony. I'll have you know. A little bit of Monty Python banter for you there. Anyway, free of charge, although you can give me money, so we're on a high track. Thank you, Orgle Wargle, with 5 gifted subs. That is. Oof. I mean, be honest with you, undeserved. Thank you. Anyway, so this fucking idiot is Prime Minister, and I can't think of a more damning indictment of Britain. Let's go.
New Year should be a time of optimism and excitement. Yet I know many of you look ahead to 2023 with apprehension.
I wonder whose fault that was.
I want you to know that as your Prime
Yeah, I wonder who sucked the soul out of the country, mate.
Yeah, I'm just like, we having a tough time in 2023, are we, Rishi? I wonder which entire political party is solely to blame for all of this.
Yeah. So 2023 should be a time of joy for me because I am rich,
Yeah.
whereas the poors probably fear it, and that's how it should be. I am the Lord.
It's really kind of weird, like kind of watching him like try and like pretend to have some kind of soul and to know what life is like for people. Like, I know it must be tough for you plebs.
Well, I don't know. Have we spoke? Because it's been so long since we've talked. Did we talk since he did his amazing gaff at the homeless shelter?
No, we've not. No, we've not. We've
Oh
not
yeah,
spoken.
that was amazing. Yes, with him essentially dealing out food to homeless people at a kind of food banky shelter place for homeless people, and asking one of the homeless people there, was it what do you do for a living? Like, what job do you
Would you like
have?
to get into finance?
Yeah, and then the person saying, "Well, I don't have a job. I'm homeless." And I'm saying, "Do you want to get into business?"
Yes.
Yeah, I well, actually yes. I'd quite like to be a fucking Wall Street banker earning billions. But as you can see, mate, I'm literally in rags. You are giving me food because I can't afford to buy food. I am a homeless man. What the fuck is wrong with you?
We're literally in some kind of like Dickensian, like fabricated universe
Yeah.
right now, and you're asking me if I want to get into finance. And then afterwards he said, "What have you got planned for Christmas?" And then the guy was like, "I don't know. I hope some mungos can give me a bed." I'm like, "Oh well done. Oh God, that's a cheery conversation, wasn't it, Rishi?
Yeah.
Like,
What have you
what
got
what are
planned
you
for
doing, or
Christmas?
what are you doing on Christmas? What are you doing for Christmas, Mr. Homeless
Well,
Man?
probably
Dying in a ditch."
heroin and crying. I
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah. What do you mean? It's ridiculous. Anyway, so that's how in touch the current prime minister is. Literally the richest prime minister we've ever had. Amazing.
I think, I mean, at this point, I think his image is so bungled that there's basically no chance they can win the next year election unless they put Boris Johnson back into number 10. Like, that's literally
Probably.
like, these had three massive gaffes already. Like, I mean, not even recent. I mean, to be fair, one of them was from when he was a kid saying he had no working class friends. And obviously when he got caught on camera saying that he took money away from deprived urban areas.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. I mean, it almost makes you think why is Sir Keith going so right wing? He doesn't need to.
Yeah, he could literally
Except
just
he
say
just
nothing.
is.
He could
Yeah.
just say nothing.
Yeah, it's almost like he's just a bullshitter.
Well,
He's just a terrible
like
person.
as someone was pointing out on Twitter today, right, and that a lot of it's not posturing to the public, it's posturing to the media and posturing to the corporate class that you can be trusted. Basically, he's on their side.
Yeah. Thank you 255 for gifting a sub to Kim Il Sung. So clearly there's an Asian dictator thing going on.
Love
I
it.
wonder
love it.
who's next. If you can find a Mao
Or Ho
somewhere,
Chi
there's got to be a Mao in there somewhere, right?
Definitely.
Prime Minister, I will work night and day to change that, and quickly. Not just by providing relief and peace of mind for the months to come, although we will, but also by changing our country and building a better future for our children and grandchildren. A future that restores optimism, hope, and pride in Britain.
Why do we not have those things? You have been in charge for 13 years. If we have no pride, optimism, or faith in Britain, that's on you.
It's literally like Gordon Brown in 2009 going, "Don't worry, I'll fix everything. I just blame the previous chancellor." And I'm like, about that.
Yeah, I'm glad he's going to fix the financial fuckery caused by who's been chancellor for Rishi Sunak. Oh,
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
Okay, cool.
Well, it's an identical situation to Gordon Brown, isn't it? Identical. Except this time, it's actually his fault.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is basically his fault. Yes. True. So it's very anti-Semitic going on here. Terrible.
True.
Let me first address two issues that I know are at the forefront of everyone's minds. I know there are challenges in A&E. People are understandably anxious when they see ambulances queuing outside hospitals. You should know we're taking urgent action, increasing bed capacity by 7,000 more hospital beds and more people cared at home, providing new funding to discharge people into social care in the community, freeing up beds, and the NHS are working urgently on...
But that's not necessarily a good thing. Putting sick people who should be in hospital into social care is dangerous for everybody
I mean,
involved in
wasn't
that
that
process.
literally what caused loads of COVID deaths, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like
Like,
that's not a good thing.
no, quite is it? And it's like all the NHS workers working even harder. I'm like, you're in a pay dispute. I don't want to. That's probably not a good idea to say. You know who were working to the bone? People who we were in a massive dispute with who
No,
already worked to the bone.
but it's fine because they've released their new Trade Disputes Act that they're going to try and pass. Which, by the way, will obviously pass because they have a significant majority, all of whom hate trade unions because fuck democracy, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's clearly and obviously unconstitutional and illegal. There's no way that stands up when it goes to the Supreme Court, which it obviously will. They're literally going to try and take away people's rights to go on strike.
I mean, Mick
So,
Lynch was
so
describing it correctly as like conscription.
basically, yeah, like if you don't have the right to remove your labour, that's not really employment. That's kind of, well, at best, indentured servitude.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's
for
not
sure.
cool.
Future plans for A&E and ambulances. And on strikes. There's a lot of misinformation out there. So I want people to clearly understand
You had to put it at
the government's
1.25.
position.
Is he that boring?
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, he's pretty fucking terrible.
We hugely value public sector workers like nurses. They do incredibly important.
Honestly, I think the next election, if assuming it's going to be Sanook versus Keith, both their real names, is probably going to be the least inspiring electoral choice since Major versus Kinnock. Surely,
I mean, 100%, 100%.
arguably worse, but certainly that's the kind of ballpark we're talking.
Yeah.
Bad times.
Work. And that's why we want a reasonable dialogue with the unions about what's responsible and fair for our country. And in the
Is it responsible and fair to remove people's rights to not go to work if they don't want to?
Exactly. But we want to make things fair. We want to give them what they deserve. So we're going to crush their pay demands and then also break constitutional law to try and conscript them.
Yeah, exactly. Like we don't think the employer has enough power in this situation somehow.
I mean, like obviously it's kind of abhorrent and like ghastly when you think about the NHS, right? When they are public sector workers being conscripted by the government to work, right, and being told they can't go on strike anymore. But it's even more egregious when you're looking at something like the trains, where they're not even a public service anymore. They're privatized, right?
Indeed.
Where the government is stepping in and saying we're literally going to protect this company. Obviously, they were doing that the entire time previously when they were indemnifying the operators against the strike action. So on days of strike days, they were being remunerated from the public purse. Not only were they doing that, but now they're saying literally they're intervening in the dispute to stop by kneecapping the unions. It's so like brazenly like horrendous. I don't even know how anybody can get behind this unless you're just literally a pensioner who never leaves the house.
Indeed. Well, thank you, by the way, Orgle. Apologies to everyone. Apparently, Twitch is freaking out, so it's still having some issues. But apologies. There's nothing I can do. It's working on my end. It's clearly a Twitch issue. Secondly, 255 says, "What's wrong with Neil Kinnock? He was the last actual leftist Labour leader until Corbyn." 2 points there. Firstly, he wasn't a leftist. Literally, the Blairite Revolution happened because Neil Kinnock laid the ground rules for that. He broke the back of any kind of progressive Labour Party. And secondly, I wasn't even saying that. I was just saying he was boring.
I mean, he was boring. I mean, that's true. They're definitely like as far as boring goes, that's pretty. I mean, like Kinnock had reasonably good things in the manifesto. I would definitely call him more of a social democrat than a third wayer. If you're looking in from the prescriptions of the manifesto, maybe he's further right than that in his actual mind. But there was still like tax breaks for cooperatives, like incentivizing that kind of economic activity. He was going to renationalize the national grid, and this was in 1992 when they were supposed to have that one last push to try and gain power when they should have really won the election when they did. So like as far as like Labour leaders go, like he's definitely better than Blair and Brown. Let's be fair. But
True.
I think you're correct in saying that the instigation of the Blair reforms was because of Kinnock. But then you think like John Smith was going to stay on the same similar kind of platform that Neil Kinnock was. And it was only when he died and Blair took over that we really just saw every single kind of left wing reform completely gutted from the manifesto.
True.
Coming days, we will update you on the government's next steps. Today, I want to make a simple commitment. This government will always reflect the people's priorities. People don't want politicians who promise the earth and then fail to deliver. They want government to focus less on politics and more on the things they care about.
Is this guy actually brain dead?
I want politicians to stop doing their jobs. What do you like? What like? I'm sure,
Why are doctors so obsessed with doing medicine?
Yeah.
Really? What's wrong with them?
I mean, this is I guess if they run a right wing thing where they kind of view the political sphere as just the kind of machinations that go on within politicking, etc. When no, everything is politics, right? Everything.
But look, if the government can't be politics, what can be?
I know, right? I know.
What does any of that mean? He's a fucking idiot.
He is absolutely an idiot. I mean, he was on. I posted a TikTok where I was reacting to him at PMQs, where he tried to claim that Royal Mail were getting taxpayers' money through the strike action. I'm like, well, either you're indemnifying them like you are with the railways, or you didn't realise that this shit was privatised in 2013.
It wouldn't surprise me if he didn't know. To be honest, that wouldn't surprise me.
Or they just think that everything is funded by the government because they genuinely believe, that there's still more state that they can strip away, which obviously isn't really a thing. Apart from Fact Channel 4, which they realised is something they could strip away and have apparently backed down on now. But
which is a positive. Yeah, but maybe it was just a Nadine Dorries wet dream fantasy.
I mean, maybe they realised that having any amount of policy tied to Nadine Dorries is like optically horrendous.
Yes, that is also true. Thank you, everybody, for the hype train. I've now got to go and track down Rishi Sunak and insert my finger into his anus. Good times. Good luck editing that out of your fucking video.
The cost of living, too high. Waiting times in the NHS, too long. Illegal migration, far too much. I think people do accept that many of these challenges are, at least in part, the legacy of COVID and impacted by the war in Ukraine.
Oh, Jesus
but
Christ.
That's not an excuse.
Yes, it is. That's the only excuse you have. Constantly. Everything is either COVID or Ukraine.
Yep.
Literally, you said the nurses, or not you, I think it was Nadine Zahawi.
It was
needed to have a reasonable wage demand to send a message to Vladimir Putin. The fuck are you talking about?
It's so silly, isn't it?
It's not just silly. It gave me big red, white, and blue Brexit feels. I felt like I was being condescended to. Like they're talking to us like we're fucking children.
I mean, they literally do, and both parties are doing it at the moment. It's so infuriating.
It really is. Yeah.
Not just talk about them. And since I became Prime Minister, we've made progress. Stabilised the economy and people's mortgage rates. Provided £26 billion of support for the cost of living. Invested billions more in schools, the NHS and social care. Deepened ties with allies around the world on everything from Ukraine to our collective economic security. Continued our unwavering support for the armed forces in their efforts to keep us safe. And set out a concrete plan to stop the boats and tackle the unfairness of illegal migration.
Stop the boats. It's just open like fascist shit now. Yeah, brilliant.
But they've got nothing left.
Of course, we...
But they've got nothing left. I was saying this before when I was just saying, now that they've literally can never be trusted on the economy for however many years to come, right? What else do they have left other than appealing to, the most egregious excesses of social conservatism? That's it. That's all they've got. Yeah. They have to scare people into voting, right? That's why I think that they're going big on the turf shit as well. Because they also know that the biggest demographic that consistently votes left-wing, who isn't an ethnic minority, are women, right?
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
trying. That's why you remember that video. I forget, it was someone from the Spectator saying that they were using gender critical feminists as human shields, and that's exactly
Indeed they are.
why. It's because they want to try and they want to find any possible avenue they can get of making people not vote Labour at the next election,
Yeah.
which seems like the number of people they can win over is dwindling every single day.
Yeah.
Need to do more. So I want to make 5 promises to you today. 5 pledges to deliver peace of mind. 5 foundations on which to build a better future for our children and grandchildren. First, we will halve inflation this year to ease the cost of living and give people financial security. Second,
Stop it there one
we
second.
will grow the economy,
hang on.
creating better paid jobs.
Like, he can't just. I mean, first of all, like, unless he's telling us any specific measures he's going to do to cut inflation, which is obviously that there's a level of hysteresis to this anyway. So what's actually going to do in the short term? But second of all, the oil and gas prices are all going down now. They were set on futures prices from a year ago that are now tailing back off again. So by this time, the end of the year, we'll be paying the futures prices that we have now, which are all essentially back at where they were before the war.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest source of inflation. Plus, inflation is done on a yearly basis. By the end of 2023, it'll be a new financial year. So we'll be looking at inflation from March, which almost certainly won't be 11%, and the chance of it being 5% are pretty low anyway. So he's basically saying, I promise to do something that will happen anyway, and that I also have no control over.
Well, exactly, yeah. And he doesn't say how he's going to do this. It's empty nonsense. We're going to cut it in half. How are you going to do that?
Yeah.
We're going to cut it in half. Brilliant. Just fucking awesome.
An opportunity right across the country. Third, we will make sure our national debt is falling so that we can secure the future of public services. Fourth, NHS waiting lists will fall and people will get the care they need more quickly. Fifth, we will pass new laws to stop small boats, making sure that if you come to this country illegally, you are detained and swiftly removed. So,
also worth noting
5
as
promises.
well. It was also worth noting as well. What was the third point that he said?
We can go back.
Yeah.
Our national debt is falling so that we can secure
the national debt's falling. We've already had the budget. We already know the OBR predictions for the national debt. We already have seen the 5-year plan of how they're going to invest a bunch of money into the NHS and the education this year, and then massively cut back conveniently the year after the election. And we already know that you're promising something where we already have like the budget constraints in place for. So like 3 of these promises are basically completely nonsensical and or a foregone conclusion regardless.
And my chat, but ever resourceful as they are, I've noticed that his legislation that he just mentioned only mentions small boats. So the immigrants just need to put a massive boat.
Yeah, there you go.
It would work. Just buy the Titanic or something. There's probably not a problematic history involved in that.
I mean, if these people are drugs traffickers in the way that they clearly say they are, apparently, if the Conservatives are to be believed, they'll have plenty of money for a massive boat, so we're all good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
This country illegally, you are detained and swiftly removed. So, 5 promises. We will halve inflation, grow the economy, reduce debt, cut waiting lists, and stop the boats. Those are the people's priorities. They are your government's priorities, and we will either have achieved them or not. No tricks.
Well, then, if it's or not, then you've broken the promise. You can't say this is a promise. You can say this is an aim. Like, we're aiming to try and do this, but if we can't, well, sorry. But like, oh, actually, if we will pledge, we'll definitely do them unless we don't for some reason. What?
Well, that's the thing. It's being sort of framed in the media as something noble when he was saying like, oh, you should judge me by whether we get the NHS back in order or something, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's some great concession he's making. No, you should be judged on that anyway. Why is that? That's not statesman-like. That's just how democracy should work.
Exactly. And like, it's the NHS, it's the most important institution in the entire country. And you were literally in charge of the purse strings for it for 2 years. Like, literally, there's only been like 5 weeks where you've not been responsible for the NHS, Rishi Sunak, either as Chancellor or as Prime Minister. What the fuck are you doing?
Exactly, yeah. I'm not entirely sure what he's doing. And to be honest with you, I think that's where he and I agree, because he doesn't seem to know what he's doing either. which is good.
Yeah.
No ambiguity. We're either delivering for you or we're not. We will
Yeah, that one.
rebuild trust in politics through action or not at all. So I ask you to judge us on the effort that we put in and the results that we achieve. Now, these 5 promises are the people's priority.
I like the fact that there's no applause, but there was one sarcastic little cough. It's so appropriate given the lack of any interest or competence or anything involved here. Just a cough. His big line there is just greeted with someone just expelling germs. Good.
So they're my immediate priorities too. But they're not the limit of my ambitions for our country. They're the foundation. My aim is to build a better future for our children and grandchildren, a future where they feel optimism, hope, and pride. And to realize that vision, we need to change our mindset. Now, politicians...
It's almost a bit 14 words, eh? It's not quite there, but it's a bit much.
Yeah.
Talk a lot about change. But the truth is, no government, no prime minister can change a country by force of will or diktat alone. Real change isn't provided, it's created. It's not given, it's demanded, not granted, but invented. The choices we make as individuals, as workers, business owners, parents,
That
all
bit
add
where
up
he
to
was doing a
something
bunch of
far greater.
verbs, right? He was
Yes.
saying it's not created, it's invented. It reminded me of the bit in Alan Partridge where it's like, yeah, that's great because I evolve, I don't revolve.
Yeah. Honestly, he should just end his speeches with "Smell my cheese, you
Smell my
mother."
cheese, you mother. Oh no, of course
Would
you're on the
be good.
BBC gravy train.
True. Cock-pissed Sunak.
And if we're honest, change also requires sacrifice and hard work. It's a big risk
Sacrifice from rich people? Anyone? No? No? Okay.
for a politician to say that, but the stakes are too high and the rewards too great not to level with you. So change is hard. It takes time, but it is possible. And we know that because we've done it before. During COVID, we protected millions of people's jobs and businesses, a record I'm proud of. And we know it's possible because you...
Any mention of the dead people that were caused by your eat out to help out nonsense?
Yeah.
Any mention there? No, just it's okay because businesses. We just killed some tens of thousands of people to make sure the red line went up slightly.
True, because red line go up equals world more gooder.
Yeah. Stunk's good, people's lives, who cares?
You can see change happening. You can feel it. Just look at our state schools, empowered by reform in some of the most deprived parts of the country, producing some of the best results. Those teachers and pupils work hard and make sacrifices because they know that what they are doing is bigger than themselves. They demand, inspire, and deliver excellence. And their ethos of excellence can become the animating spirit of our nation. Inspired by them, together we can change our country's character. We can reverse the creeping acceptance of a narrative of decline, reject pessimism and fatalism, refuse limits on our aspirations. And to do that, we need to have the imagination and confidence to do things differently and better. The vision...
Okay, but again, I can only really go back to my line of questioning from before. If there is a pessimism and an inevitability of decline, why is that?
Yeah.
Who has caused that?
Yeah, it's like we're going to do things differently. Yeah, differently from whom?
Yeah, and differently in what way?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
you haven't actually said anything about like a change of course. You've just said, "Oh, we'll have this and we'll get rid of that." And
We'll
get rid
do
of
it differently by having free ports, which he loves
Free-
apparently.
Exactly. Can't wait for that.
Woo.
to do today what is needed for tomorrow. In other words, we need to change the way our country works. That requires a change in mindset. What does that mean in practice? It means a more innovative economy, stronger communities and safer streets, a world-class education system, an NHS built around patients, and a society that truly values the family. In all these areas and more, we must have the courage to...
You served, I'm sorry, you served as the fucking chancellor to a guy who's cheated on all of his wives.
Yeah.
Don't you fucking dare talk to me about the sanctity of the fucking family or
And it's
whatever.
also
You
just like,
absolute prick.
and it's also just like any neoliberal coming to me and saying, I think that society is worse because we've not protected the family unit. And I'm like, you got what you wanted. You were the ones
Yeah.
whose economic policies made it so that we couldn't raise a family on a single income anymore. You were the ones who made it so that depressed wages meant that, and increased house prices mean that no one could get on the property ladder to be able to start their family. Like, you did that. Like, that's
Yep.
your fault. Like, if the only people to blame for this, I'm sure, right? Most families and most environments for raising children would be better with a primary breadwinner and a primary carer or a caregiver
Yes.
of some description, or a half and half mixture of the two, rather than having two breadwinners and no caregivers, which is what most families are nowadays, because you can't afford to raise children on the crappy incomes and high cost of living that we have at the moment. That's just the way
Yep.
it is.
Yep.
To change, to think bigger, strive for excellence, not give up
Someone
when
clip
things
that.
get tough. And if we can do that, then we really can build a better future. In the coming months, I will set out our plans in each of these areas. But let me set the direction today. A better future is one where our economy is growing faster so that everybody, everywhere across our union, has new opportunities for better paying good jobs. And the change we need is to put innovation at the heart of everything we do. An ethos embodied by so many of the fantastic businesses right here at Plexel. Now, some people think innovation is about gadgets and geekery, a nice to have, peripheral to growth compared to the traditional levers of tax and spend. But that is exactly the mindset that we need to change. Let me tell you why innovation is so important. Over the last 50 years, it was responsible for around half of the UK's productivity increase. New jobs are created by innovation. People's wages increased by innovation. The cost of goods and services reduced by innovation. And major challenges like energy security and net zero will be solved by innovation. The more we innovate, the more we grow. And the world is seeing an incredible wave of scientific and technological change. So right now, the most powerful way to achieve higher growth is to make sure the UK is the most innovative economy in the world. And that's why we're increasing public funding in R&D to £20 billion to enhance our world-leading strengths in AI, life sciences, quantum, fintech, and green technology, seizing the opportunities of Brexit to ensure our regulatory system is agile and
Our regulatory system is agile. That means they want to cut away rights and protections from
They clearly spent a long time in the briefing room trying to find a way of describing their financial crisis part 2 electric boogaloo to come in a positive manner.
Well, I think people have worked out that flexible isn't a good thing.
No, I think
So
yeah,
they're going to go with agile now.
Yeah.
It's their new thing.
Like we've sussed it out. Like we know what. I mean, we literally you can work flexibly with no benefits, no sick pay, no maternity pay, and no holiday pay. And I'm like, no, that sucks. Please don't do
Well, that's
that.
the thing. Well, flexibility, if it goes both ways, is not the end of the world. But it doesn't. It goes one way. It means you work when the employer wants you to, at the rate they want you to, or you starve to death.
Yeah.
Oh, so does that mean I can take sick days or work flexibly to work around like school care or childcare or whatever? No, no, no flexibility from them. Okay.
Quite.
But anyway, agile. Back to agile Rishi and his agileness.
pro-innovation, making sure entrepreneurial and fast-growing companies get the finance they need.
Well, no, I don't know about you, but I'm part of the anti-innovation coalition.
True.
Bringing back a classic there. From
What
was her name again? Elizabeth something? I can't remember her name. Anyway.
Shrews, I don't know. I think what's interesting as well is that he basically says that the heart of growth is innovation, right? And then he says we're going to put public funding into you fueling innovation. So he's
socialism.
I mean, but it's basically I think they understand now. I think they have to basically admit that some level of kind of inserting public finance into the economy and fiscal expansion is basically the only way they're going to get growth, because literally that's true. That is the only way we're going to get growth in a stagnant economy where all of our costs have gone up and we have a crisis of demand, right? The only way they're going to do that is by trying to float more money into the economy. But they can't say that. They can't say that that's what they're doing. They have to kind of smuggle it in through the lens of enhanced innovative capacity or some shit.
Yeah. Agile finance. Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Boom.
Exactly. Although they still are trying to say that the way we can become more competitive post Brexit is by making sure that we have another financial crisis in 20 years' time.
True.
To expand, spreading a culture of creative thinking and doing things differently across every part of the UK. If we're going to deliver this better future, people will have to work hard. But I believe good, well-paid jobs are about more than just financial security. They give people purpose, confidence, dignity, the chance to build a better life from themselves. But I also believe that if you work hard and play by the rules, you should be rewarded. And which is why, as soon as we
Unless,
can,
of course,
the
you're
government
an
will reduce.
employee of the of the public services, unless you work for the trains.
No, he didn't. No, he means if you're a banker, we're going to get rid of the cap on your
I mean, well,
bonuses.
that's true. I mean, as a leftist, we would both understand that the problem isn't people working, whether how people are working hard or not. The problem is that he said if you play by the rules, and the problem is the rules are bad.
Yes,
That's it.
yeah.
At the end of the day, right? If you play by the rules, i.e., our rules have set it up so that you can buy more houses than you have use for, and then like literally just scrape money away from the most kind of the poorest people in society, and most deprived people in society. That's just within the rules, right?
Yeah. Well, it's bad. It's bad enough that the rules are bad,
Mhm.
but if you're rich enough, the rules literally don't apply to you.
True, exactly. Well, as people, I mean, for example, I think a really easy way of looking at that is fines is another way of saying it's legal if you're rich.
Yeah. Well, exactly. What speeding fines or parking fines or whatever. Yeah, you can, or indeed financial fraud fines. But when a bank does something obviously fucky and they get £100 million fine, yeah, but they made 20 billion off it or whatever. Like that's it's worth them doing it.
Exactly. The
It's not a
cost benefit
punishment at
analysis of
all.
them breaking the law is positive in favor of breaking the law. Because
Yeah.
it's completely ridiculous and doesn't really work in real life. That's why I quite like what Sweden and Switzerland do, where they fine you as a proportion of your income. So I think the biggest speeding fine is like 1 million kroner or something.
Yeah, but
So
that could be a lot, or that could be a loaf of bread. I have no idea. It's not real money, is it? It's like monopoly money.
But it was like I think it worked out like like $6-figure dollars or pounds or something like that.
Yeah.
And some guy was literally driving a Bugatti Veyron. Sorry, I mean Bugatti Veyron.
Yeah. True.
At maximum speed or whatever it was on a Swedish motorway and got fined a huge amount of money because it was a proportion of their income because he's a rich fucker, wasn't he?
Plus, there are Romanian police officers driving around in Bugattis right now. It's
True.
No.
The only time I'm ever happy for the police to be successful.
True. So anyway, enough about bottom G. Let's
Yeah.
move on.
Reduce the burden of taxation on working people. And it is staggering that at a time when businesses are crying out for workers, a quarter of our labour force is inactive. So our growth plan will look at
We
how
need to
we
get
can
the
support
poor
those who
struggling
can
now.
to move back into work, including through the welfare system.
There
Now,
we
all
go.
of this will make this country a beacon of science, technology, and enterprise, and lift our productivity,
silly thing as
raise
well-
our growth rate, and
Hang on,
create
one
jobs
second.
in the decade.
The silly thing
Yep.
as well is obviously Kwasi Kwarteng was really worried about the labour force participation rate.
Hang
right?
on, which one was that again?
I don't know. I remember the name from somewhere. What position he held,
Yeah.
I have no idea. Then he was
Okay.
going on about workforce participation rate, and then he said we need to cut benefits even more. Like the welfare state is the
How?
reason why we have like a really low labour force participation rate, and that's just like fundamentally untrue. We already have one of the worst welfare states in Europe. Yet all
Yeah.
of the European countries with better welfare states than us have a higher labour force participation rate. When actually, if you look at it, for example, actually one of the Financial Times analysis of the problems with the NHS. They were saying, well, this is the knock-on effect of having a broken down NHS is that people are unable to work because they can't get the healthcare that they need, the preventative healthcare that stops them from going into the NHS in the first place, because
Yep.
every single possible department has been cut to the bone. I'm like, yeah, well, there you go. There's your problem, right?
Well, they seem to think that you can just cut it to the bone, like these things aren't necessary.
Exactly.
Because in an ideal world, they wouldn't be necessary. But then we don't live in an ideal world because people get sick.
And they think, well, hang on a minute, if we
People
get,
need childcare,
it's fine.
you
If
know?
we cut, they always think that if we cut back on this public service, the private sector will then pick up the slack. But that categorically does not work for the NHS when the people who rely on the NHS are the people who can't afford private healthcare, right?
Yeah.
And like we're probably at the point at which like 10%, like the top 10 percentile of or the top decile of the country are the only people who can afford to go to actually have private healthcare for actual healthcare, right? Obviously, I go private for transition healthcare, but that's not the same as having to go private for fucking tonsillectomy or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
The people can barely afford their private dentistry, which for some reason we don't get on the NHS, or we can barely afford to, or that the people who do get on the NHS, like the requirements are so thin on the ground.
Yeah.
And these are all things that are problems that also compound as well. The longer you leave them, the more money you have to spend to fix them. Just same as homelessness.
Indeed so. Well, as the Cameron government found, actually sacking public sector workers doesn't save money in the long run at all.
Nope.
It makes everything worse.
Yep.
But let's just carry on doing that. Maybe we can dig ourselves out of this hole.
Yeah, dig up, stupid.
Well, exactly.
To come. Good jobs give people pride in their own lives. But a better future also means reinforcing people's pride in the places they call home. And the change we need is to do away with the idea that it's inevitable that some communities and some places can never and will never get better. I love...
Do you think they might have gotten better if you hadn't purposefully taken money from them?
I know, right? Like, you admitted that you'd done it too.
Yeah.
Like him, it's again because there's so much evidence we have that we know that this is just complete fabrication, or at the very least a problem of his own making. Like he has no way of getting out of it, especially since the only way he could possibly go would be further right. And we've seen what happens when he goes further right on economic issues, when the Conservative Party crashed the fucking economy.
True. Did you see that apparently the Kwarteng mini budget cost £74 billion to the economy?
I wouldn't be surprised.
£74 billion. Thanks, Quaz. Absolutely killing it. And
Love
by it, I mean the British economy. You killed it.
Yeah.
You literally killed it.
Yeah.
My local community. And it's not right that too many for far too long have not felt that same sense of meaning and belonging. The government can't create it. It's something that we build together. But the state does provide the foundations. So we will deliver on our promise to level up with greater investment in local areas.
That still doesn't mean
growth,
anything.
Create jobs and reinvigorate our high streets and town centres. But all the regeneration
Actually,
in
I'm
the
going to have to call you out
won't
on that
mean
one, Kev.
anything unless people...
go on.
I was reading the 2019 Labour manifesto, and they literally talk about levelling up communities in the Labour manifesto.
Okay, what did that mean though?
I mean, true. I mean, it did mean substantially more than what they meant by levelling up.
Well, exactly, yeah. It's not that a phrase that's new can't mean anything. It's when the Tories say it, they don't mean anything.
No, I mean, even if they did mean anything, the chance of it actually getting done would be incredibly low. Like, I was actually reading you can from the government website, you can find an Excel document with all of the kind of levelling up stuff. I didn't get through it as quickly as I wanted to because it's so fucking wordy, and trying to find out where each of the funds meant, because it's all in like weird holding accounts related to certain institutions that own certain bits and pieces. Because I was trying to find out how pork barreling it was. I was trying to find out like how much of those funds were specifically only going to Tory seats in the north, but I couldn't work it out.
Yeah. It's probably all going into crypto or something, I imagine.
Safe in their communities. So by this spring, we'll have an extra 20,000 police officers patrolling the streets, answering the call for help, and
doing literally fuck all, because that's what police officers do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And also, again, like that is on some gigantic assumption that you can find 20,000 people who want to be police officers. Well, unless you conscript them, you can't promise that shit. The same with all the nurses. Like, where are you gonna? Well, we're gonna train all these nurses. Like, okay, find me the people who want to get into your crappy job that you refuse to fund properly with an awful working environment because of how underfunded the service is. Like,
yeah,
catching criminals. We've got to stop violence against women and girls. And let's be frank, that means men.
Again, you were Chancellor of the Exchequer to a man who was known to have physically abused his now wife.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put that out there, Rish. I don't know that you can necessarily stand up, given your lack of legs on which to stand.
Men taking responsibility for creating a culture and society where women are safe in their communities and at home. We've got to reduce reoffending, because a small number of career criminals account for disproportionate amounts of crime. And we
Yeah, the House of Commons. But
Ayo. House of
We've
Lords,
got
more
to beat
like.
addiction
true.
because heroin and crack addicts account for almost half of all robberies.
Not like the good rich drugs that we do in Parliament.
No, exactly. Well,
Coke is fine.
we're literally the powder versus crack cocaine division all over again. Fucking
Yeah.
borrowing rhetoric from the 1980s America. But also in general, it's like, okay, you want to stop the drugs trade from going on, fucking legalize that shit.
Yeah.
They want to break
basically.
the backs of the gangs and make sure that people can seek help to deal with their addiction problems without fear of being criminalized. Fucking decriminalize it. Like,
Yeah.
not hard.
But again, it's in the same way that they don't want to actually tackle the immigration issue because it's a thing they can win on.
True.
They can scare people with it.
True.
There are ways in which you can deal with this in a perfectly reasonable and humane fashion, but that would get rid of their shiny to deflect away from their robbing the poor.
Quite.
Strong communities are also built on values, on the golden rule.
Hang on. Is there such a thing as society or not? Can you please get together and decide?
Treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. But too often, a small minority break that golden rule. They spray graffiti on war memorials, discard needles and nitrous oxide canisters in children's playgrounds, gang together and cause disorder and disruption.
They take millions of pounds in from the state illegally.
It's fine.
They gamble with the public's money and then lose it all, and then everyone's mortgages like get catapulted into the stratosphere.
No, that's fine as well.
Yeah, that is that.
Poor people things.
Yeah, true. It's only bad when poor people do it.
True.
Antisocial behaviour isn't inevitable or a minor crime. It makes life miserable for so many, and it can be a gateway to more extreme crimes. So this government will work tirelessly to crack down on antisocial behaviour, giving police forces, mayors and local authorities the tools they need, and giving communities confidence that these crimes will be quickly and visibly punished.
Well,
wherever you live.
To point out that he said at the start there that they're not inevitable, which, and so, okay, so what measures are you going to put in place to actually prevent this crime from happening in the first place? When his only solution was, we're going to ensure we arrest these people. I'm like, well, okay, brilliant, you've arrested those people. All the people have been terrorised by the theoretical behaviour that you're saying that they will cause. What have they got out of this other than a sense of satisfaction? The crime still happened. People have still been negatively affected by it. Why can't they think about a way of preventing it? Is the massive problem the fact that the way that you prevent this is actually investing in people's communities, which involves the state doing stuff, which we can't do because apparently that's socialism.
That is so well, and if it does too much stuff, it becomes communism.
True, quite.
Yeah. Also, speaking of communism, which we weren't, but anyway, the 9th vote is now happening in America,
Love it.
which he's already lost because he's got a majority of 4 and 7 have already voted against him.
So
they're probably they're on letter B, and he's already lost. Brilliant. Record setting. Anyway, yes. Well, did you see earlier that Matt Gaetz voted for Donald Trump?
I did. I mean, it's a very
honestly
Gaetz thing to do.
The most sycophantic thing I've ever seen happen.
We just want to be on the news. He just wants to be able to do the media rounds. Oh, why did you support Donald Trump? Blah 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 blah. Yeah. Get a place on Newsmax, whatever it is.
Yeah, when he should be in jail because he's a pederast.
Oh, I know Boba voted for Kern in the 8th round of voting. Has she voted for someone different again this time?
Yeah.
Amazing. I got it. She's such a lol cow. I'm beginning to warm to these America First people just because of the inevitable continuation of the banter timeline that they give us.
Oh yeah, no, this is ridiculous. Yeah, there's no way. Well, there's no fucking way in this world they want to get anything done. So you're negotiating with terrorists who are telling you, even if we sort out a deal, this still won't work.
I wonder what percentage of these America First people actually believe any of the shit that they say. I reckon there's a huge proportion of grifters who know that the kind of MAGA cult people are a really easy demographic to be able to grift to. I mean, it's what Tim Pool does, right? Yeah. Because not only are these people idiots, but they're also idiots who are wealthy, right? Because it's the kind of upper middle class suburban mum type
Yep.
demographic that are really absolutely kind of down the rabbit hole with this stuff. So if you want to become like a right wing kind of MAGA cult, America First style grifter, there's just so much easy money to be able to take from people. People super chat into Tim Pool's stream like he's a fucking mega church pastor.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but like fucking what's his face? The guy who was his fucking chief of staff, the Breitbart guy. Anyway,
Steve Bannon.
Steve Bannon, yes, literally got caught stealing money that was intended for the Build the Wall pack thing, taking it into his own pocket, was fined by the federal government for having done so, somehow avoided prison for that obvious piece of fraud, and they still give him money.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Crazy.
At that point, I not only do I not feel sorry for you, I feel like that's a tax on idiocy. At that point, like fuck you.
I mean, if this is the amount of fighting that we have now within the GOP just over the House speakership, it's going to be a fucking bloodbath when it comes to the primaries.
Well, not just that, but like, imagine trying to pass legislation. They can't even get to the start point of trying to get legislation done.
I mean, the sad part is I would love it to see the Democrats vote for Donalds for the lulls, right? Just so that there is now 2 years of the GOP knowing that they've been humiliated and they can't get away with it. They can't just insert another speaker, for example.
Yeah.
There's going to be Byron Donalds sitting there being the speaker, knowing that that's not who the GOP wanted, but they can't do that because Byron Donalds has pretty much confirmed that one of his actions as speaker is going to make sure they don't raise the debt ceiling. So, you know.
So I'm specifically trying to get into government to stop the government existing.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So.
Anyway. Although one of the good points about Matt Gaetz voting for Trump is that Trump came last in yet another election.
True. He
Massive
did.
loser.
He did indeed.
You can thank Matt Gaetz for that extra piece of humiliation, Donald.
Add it to the pile.
Indeed.
Now, United Kingdom, you should be able to feel proud of your community, and that's what we'll work together to achieve. So we will create a better future by changing our economy and strengthening our communities. We also need greater social justice. And the way we achieve that is education.
The chuds are going to lose their fucking mind.
Rishi
he said
Sunak,
the 2 words.
Rishi Sunak, the SJW.
He said why don't you just fucking dye your hair blue, Rashid?
I bet he's got pronouns as well.
Almost certainly in his bio.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck's sake.
Rishi Sunak, twat bellend.
We need to get the fucking transvestigators on him immediately.
True.
Did you see that the transvestigators have worked out that Andrew Tate is Andrea Tate?
Definitely, and Chaya Rychik is like Chris Rychik.
True. These are facts. All people are trans.
True.
This is personal for me. Every opportunity I've had in life began with the education I was so fortunate to receive. And it's the single most important reason why I came into politics, to give every child the highest
because I'm a rich bastard who went to a private school.
I was really lucky to be born into wealth so that they could pay for me to have better schooling than the plebs, and that's why I'm a rich man standing at you as prime minister, and why you're running in the rat race with all the other rats. Like,
exactly.
I mean, what is it? Was it something? Oh, there's a crazy about the amount of people who went to private school who are in politics. I mean, journalism. Like, over half of the journalists we have went to private school, and it's only 7% of the country who are privately educated.
Yeah, they're vastly represented.
For sure. Like, if you want there to be every child to have access to, every child to have equal access to that kind of education, then you want to abolish private schools. But as far as Rishi is concerned, they do have equal access, just not actually in reality, because they all have the ability to have rich parents who go to private school. Whether those parents exist or not, that's beside the point.
Yeah, I mean, I would literally have eaten, destroyed, and use it for gravel for my pavements outside my house.
True.
I would literally do that. But that's me. That's crazy old Kev.
Possible standard of education. Thanks to the reforms we've introduced since 2010 and the hard work of so many excellent teachers, we've made incredible progress. But with the right plan, the right commitment to excellence, I cannot see any reason why we can't rival the best education systems in the world. To do that, yes, we'll need to fix the damage of COVID, especially for our youngest pupils. And yes, it will require more investment. Which is why
hang on, he didn't blame Ukraine. He missed one.
True. Putin was that's the real enemy here.
Exactly.
Yeah,
few weeks ago in the autumn
I'm sorry, Your Honour. I'm sorry that I kicked that tramp. The reason was I did it was to send a message to Vladimir Putin.
Exactly. Vladimir need to be told.
I was just consumed with grief over the war in Ukraine, and I lashed out, not realizing what I was doing.
Look, inflation led me to run over that tramp. Okay, that's what happened.
I got
Statement.
infected with COVID, and it broke my brain.
It did.
We provided £2 billion of extra
Long
funding for
COVID is a
schools.
bitch, I'm telling you.
But that's not the limit of our ambitions. We're not content with just catching up. First, we need to support good teaching and spread best practice with a plan to improve attainment in primary schools. Next, we need to stop seeing education as something that ends age 18 or that sees university as the only option, with more technical education, lifelong learning and apprenticeships. And one of the biggest challenges in mindset we need in education today is to reimagine our approach to numeracy. As Chancellor, I introduced Multiply, a new program to give hundreds of thousands of adults the opportunity to get the basic numerical skills they need. But we're one of the few countries not to require our children to study some form of maths up to the age of 18. Right now, just half of all 16 to 19-year-olds study any maths at all. Yet in a world where data is everywhere and statistics underpin every job, letting our children out into that world without those skills is letting our children down.
Well, did you see the great Simon Pegg and his response to this?
No?
Oh, okay. Well, I've got breaking news for you then. I guess.
Excellent. I look forward to it.
Yeah, he put out a little video from his car, as you do. Simon Pegg, actor, comedian, writer, chap. You all know who he is. Can you see that? Or do I have to change tab?
You have to change tab.
Oh, mother flipper. Okay, not a problem. Oh, you're on screen. There you go.
Hi, everyone. This is
Hello. That is her. Yes. Anyway, he put out this video in response to Rishi Sunak's amazing plan to make everyone do mathematics forever.
So Rishi Sunak, our unmandated, unelected Prime Minister, twice removed, has decided that it should be compulsory for children to learn maths up until the age of 18. What a prick. What about arts and humanities and fostering this country's amazing reputation for creativity and self-expression? What about that? What about the kids who don't want to do maths? I hated maths. I dropped maths as soon as I could. And I've never needed it other than the skill set I acquired at the age of 12. But no, Rishi Sunak wants a fucking drone army of data entering robots. What a tosser. Fuck the Tories. Get rid of them, please. Fuck. Fuck you, Rishi Sunak, and fuck the Tories. So Rishi...
No word of a lie.
Based and space build.
True. Well, I have an A star in GCSE mathematics. I have multiple maths A levels, and I can tell anybody that there is literally no maths that I have learned past GCSE that I have ever needed in the world of work, ever. Like you just need to be mathematically competent. And to be fair, a lot of the times that's something that you have or you don't, right? I think that it's kind of cruel, really. If you're a child with dyscalculia or something, being forced to try and do, I don't know, as I said, like a binomial expansion or, like a complex integration or whatever, when you have no real need to do so and it's not in any way relevant to any kind of future career. That's just nonsensical. Like, if there was like a reasonable justification for this, what you could say is that in children's learning up to the age of 16 that they currently are mandated to study maths, there needs to be more kind of statistics-based education there. That I can understand because stats don't involve any complex maths, and I think is pretty relevant and people don't really understand. But I think I'll probably be a bit of a poison pill for Rishi, because then people would understand the statistics that show that his government is shit.
No, what we need is an army of calculator robot people.
True.
That's all we need. Just little droids doing maths.
As the British education system has shown the world, it only ever needs to be. As what was it? Was it George Carlin bit where he says that they only teach you enough so that you understand how to operate the machines, but not enough how to question the fact that you have to operate the machines.
True. I mean, that's literally true. Yeah.
So we need to go further. I am now making numeracy a central objective of our education system. But that doesn't have to mean a compulsory A-level in maths for everyone, but we will work with the sector to move towards all children studying some form of maths to 18. Just imagine what greater numeracy will unlock for people. The skills to feel confidence with your finances, to find the best mortgage deal or savings rate, the ability to do your job better and get paid more, and greater self-confidence to navigate a changing world. Improving education is the closest thing to a silver bullet there is.
Can you see
It's
how
the
we've
best
literally
economic
got, like, we literally have an entire political class of Tony Blair clones. It's just education, education, education from everybody. Like, I mean, the amount of times that I have seen, like, Labour MPs tweet out week, because they literally, everyone in politics, they just feel like the only way to win is to be Tony Blair. It's driving me around the fucking bend, I swear.
policy, the best social policy, the best moral policy, and that's why it's this government's policy. Now, as we build this better future for our children and grandchildren, I feel a deep responsibility to pass on a health service that will be there for them, just as it was for our parents and grandparents. When I talk about the NHS,
Not for him, by the way, because he obviously could go to private
True.
healthcare. That's fine, but like,
I'm not just talking about a prized public service. I'm talking about my family's life calling. My dad was a doctor. I grew up working in my mum's pharmacy. I saw day in, day out the devotion they gave to their patients.
Aren't
And
pharmacies
my record
private?
demonstrates how important those memories are.
well, they're privately run, but they're essentially outsourced, I think,
I
by the
guess
NHS.
it's just another one of
Yeah.
those public-private partnerships that we're going to be hearing more of later.
Yeah, can't wait.
Woo.
Are to me. We've significantly increased funding for health and social care, recruited thousands more doctors and nurses, upgraded more hospitals with cutting-edge technology. But COVID has imposed massive new pressures, and people are waiting too long for the care
And the
they need.
war in Ukraine
And we're
or
fixing that,
something. Yeah.
but we need to do more. At a time when we're putting record sums into the NHS and recruiting record numbers of doctors and nurses,
Also,
healthcare
again,
professionals
gonna have
are
to
still
fact check Rishi here, or not even fact check, but just add context. Is that Rishi Sunak and actually every single Conservatives will continually say, "Oh, the NHS is broken because we continually put extra money in and it still fails." But the actual nominal amount of money is not what matters, right? What matters is the amount of money that you're putting in as a percentage of GDP. Not just
Yes.
because the money is worth less, but also because the population is bigger and so is the economy, right?
Yeah.
The amount of money you put into the NHS will always be a percentage of GDP because that is a reasonable kind of metric as to how big the population is to require the amount of investment in the NHS, for example. Especially considering that, also in this being real terms, like the amount of money is worth less because of inflation. And they keep trotting out this line over and over and over again. And I just think, and the amount, no one responds with, but what about as a percentage of GDP? When you look at it as a percentage of GDP, you literally can see a big line that goes up under Labour, and then it literally, there's an immediate jolt downwards as soon as Cameron comes into power, and it never rises again. It's always dropped as a percentage of GDP since 2010.
Indeed.
unable to deliver the care they want, and patients aren't receiving
Someone
the
click
care
that.
they deserve. So we need to recognise that something has to change. Now, it doesn't mean structural reforms to the NHS. We will always protect the founding principles of an NHS free at the point of use. But what it does mean is an NHS...
Well, except all of your MPs who have come out and said that maybe we should move to an insurance-based scheme.
Or Nick fucking Ferrari.
Yeah. Interesting that the people rich enough that it wouldn't affect them are saying that.
Although it is amusing that Rishi
patients
Sunak is the one saying we don't want to reform it, we are still believing it at a point of use, which is obviously a lie through the teeth. Yet Wes Streeting's fucking coming out and saying, oh no, we need the NHS to be reformed, we need more private involvement in the NHS. And then Kate Andrews from the fucking Spectator, the Telegraph and the Institute of Economic Affairs goes, well actually Wes Streeting is amazing because he's putting the Tories to shame with his advocation for NHS reform. And I'm like, this is the point we're at with the Labour Party, where they're so right-wing, the people from the Spectator /Telegraph /Institute of Economic Affairs are saying that they're better than the Tories on the NHS. That's how right-wing they are.
I think they'll be getting the Sun's endorsement at the next election.
Almost certainly.
and I will have to just terms of service preclude me doing that joke. Never mind.
I've actually my position on voting for Labour has changed somewhat. In the
Oh, okay. Go on
previously, I was kind of resigned to just voting them regardless, but now they're so right wing and they're so hostile to the left. I'm like, the only way I will vote them is if in my particular constituency the MP is sufficiently left wing enough to hold Keir Starmer to account when it comes to voting in the Commons. Because he'll try and pass draconian shit, right? And if he has,
Probably.
if he has a slim majority, which he might do, he might have a large majority, in which case it doesn't matter. But if he does have a large majority and it doesn't matter, then my vote doesn't matter anymore, does it? So
Yeah.
if it's a slim majority and he needs the SCG to pass legislation, we'll be in the position where he will have to bargain with left wing members of the Commons to be able to interact kind of draconian with the right wing shit that he says is going to pass, at least at this point. So if my local Labour Party doesn't put forward a candidate that I feel is sufficiently enough to hold Keir Starmer to account, then fuck it. I'm not voting for these people.
Well, I will continue to vote for them in local elections because they do a good job locally.
Yeah, same.
In terms of the national election, again, it's a straight Tory Labour split, and my local MP is okay. I mean, he's a fucking loyalist prick, so like he's not going to not loyalist in the Northern Irish sense, but loyalist in the he'll vote if Keir Starmer says free chocolate for donkeys every Tuesday, like he'll vote for it. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm worried. But I'll probably end up voting for the prick anyway because the Tories are fucking terrifying. I don't know. Yeah. Let's cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay, I guess you'll have to see what the manifesto looks like.
I can't wait.
Woo.
In control with as much choice as possible. Where we're comfortable with the NHS using more independent capacity, if that's what it takes, to get patients quicker and better care. Where patients can access more information and data, allowing them to make more informed choices.
Alexia in chat, are there any pro-trans parties? Not
Breakthrough.
Really. No. Not that can get elected to anything.
Not that currently hold any seats. I think the only actually trans positive party in the that's been elected in I was going to say in the Commons, but this isn't the case with this particular party. The only trans inclusive party has won any MPs is Sinn Féin.
Yeah, and they don't take their seats. Yeah.
Actually, I'm sorry. What the fuck am I talking about? The SNP. Obviously, they've got trans.
They've
got trans exclusive MPs.
Yeah, that's the problem because Labour's policy is relatively pro-trans, but they still have people like fucking Rosie Duffield, you know.
I mean, is it really though? Like Keir Starmer was the one who, when he was speaking with Mumsnet, was saying that he would essentially get rid of trans people's rights to use spaces, and he said he was going to protect single-sex spaces by ensuring they stay single-sex specifically. And that sounded very much like he was trying to ban trans women from women's spaces.
No,
I don't know.
maybe,
Again,
yes, but...
we'll have to see.
Well, at the very least, when asked are trans women, he said yes, which is something.
Did he?
It shouldn't be. Yeah, do you remember he was on with? Was it Nick Ferrari? I think.
No, he didn't. I think he explicitly tried to make sure that he didn't say that by saying something like, I understand that for most people, for 99.9% of people, actually close to 99% now, that it's a matter of biology, but there are some people who feel like they were born in the wrong body. So he's clearly trying to tread water on this issue until it actually comes to writing the manifesto and never giving a straight answer. So what he's done is anger both groups of people.
Okay, yeah. So basically, the answer is no. They're all a bit shit. Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Hold services to account, and where we will no longer accept unwarranted variation in performance between trusts, because high-quality healthcare should be there for you wherever you live. And as the NHS works with professions to develop a workforce strategy early this year, I've asked them to consider how we can best support doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals, like pharmacists, to work more flexibly.
Give them more money.
We all share the same objective when it comes to the NHS, to continue providing high-quality, responsive healthcare for generations to come, and that's what we're going to deliver. Our vision for change will revitalise every aspect of our lives. Better jobs, stronger communities, world-class education, an NHS built around patients. But family, is something politicians struggle to talk about, because you can all too readily be pillory.
Because they've all cheated on their partners.
Yeah, definitely the Conservative Party.
Yeah. It's difficult to come across as like pro-family when you're literally the party of rapists and pedophiles and shit. Yeah.
And adulterers and whatever, what have you. Like,
Yeah.
what was the fucking... What was it? Was it John Major in the 90s?
John Major literally having sex with Edwina Curry.
Edwina Curry, of course. It was fucking
yeah.
Edwina Curry, wasn't it? Bloody hell.
Yeah.
And what was it Stephen Milligan? We won't say exactly what, but if you want to Google Stephen Milligan, everyone, you can find out exactly what he did to show how much he values the family.
Stockings and suspenders, amyl nitrate, orange in his mouth, asphyxie wanked himself to death.
Exactly.
Literally, that happened.
I mean,
during the Tories' Back to Basics campaign.
Yeah, which was supposed to be their push again. It was literally exactly. This is identical. It was an identical situation to where John Major made a stupid decision that crashed the economy.
Yep.
And then, what was it? Fucking the European pricing index. I forget what the fuck it was called.
The monetary something. Yeah.
European financial stuff, and you fucked that up, and they were like, we've got nothing else that we can go on, so let's go for social conservatism.
Monetary exchange something.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really annoying.
Or there's the European exchange or something. I don't forget what it's called. I've forgotten what it is now. But yeah, literally, there was a massive economic collapse. They couldn't be trusted in the economy, so they just went super fucking hard on
exchange rate mechanism.
Exchange rate mechanism, that's the one. And then they immediately went super hard on trying to build themselves as the kind of Christian party of the family.
Yep.
And then turns out that that's just not the case. Although this time, at least, those scandals have happened before the policy was even announced.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, they're all. I mean, honestly, a party of absolute degenerates, and not in a cool way.
No, quite.
Being out of touch, or worse, hostile, to those who don't conform to some idealised form. We live in a world today where family can and does take many forms. But whatever your family looks like, it doesn't matter, as long as the common bond is love. We shouldn't be shy about it. We cannot not talk about the thing that is most important in most of our lives. Not when the evidence is clear that strong, supportive families make for more stable communities and happier individuals. I wouldn't be where I am today without the love of my family, the kindness they gave me, the sacrifices they made for me, the values they taught me. I learned from them the virtues of hard work and self-improvement, the importance of treating others with respect.
Okay, Mr. Silverspoon, how much hard work did you really do? Being born into rich parents and then married off to a rich wife. Like, how much real work has this man ever done in his life?
Yeah. Hang on, sorry about this. Yes. I thought you were going to go on longer than that. I was writing a thing.
Value of service, of how a community relies on people going above and beyond what they are required to do. Today, it is the love of my wife and children that sustains me in the most difficult moments in this job.
And her money.
Family matters.
Yeah, the money was probably
helped.
Yeah.
We need to support parents to manage the demands of modern workplaces without weakening the irreplaceable bonds of family life. And
okay,
we're going
how
to
are you
roll
going
out
to do that,
family hubs.
Rishi? Again, we just come back to what I was saying before. Like, how are you going to do that without making sure that workers get paid enough so that they don't have to have both parents working? Like, you literally have created like neoliberalism as an ideology, regardless of the red or the blue versions, right? You've both created and helped consistently prop up a system in which those bonds of family have been broken because of the fact that it's been constrained by the world of work. Are
his vague non-statements not enough for you?
Clearly not. Clearly not.
Outrageous. Government via platitude. That's what we need.
I mean, from both parties as well. It's ridiculous.
True.
Parents the support they need to raise a child. Because I believe deeply that family, not just government, can help us answer the profound questions we face as a country. When it comes to health, family cares for us when we were sick and old. Family teaches us values in education. When it comes to community, family guides us in right and wrong. And that's why family runs right through our vision of a better future. When I first spoke to you as Prime Minister, I stressed that trust was not given, but earned. I hope that in these first few weeks in the job, I have begun to earn your trust. And I've made 5 promises today to deliver peace of mind. We will halve inflation, grow the economy, reduce debt, cut waiting times, and stop the boats.
We will do the thing and not do the other thing.
Well, that's literally it.
Yay.
He's never, like, the only policy prescription that we've had is make kids learn maths until they're 18, and 20,000 police officers that they're going to somehow conjure out of the ether. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are the only two policies we've heard throughout the entire speech.
Yep.
But I know this is just the start of what we need to do to build a better Britain together. As well as peace of mind today, this afternoon I've also set out a vision for a better future for our children and grandchildren. Now, we're not going to get there overnight, or even in this Parliament, but this is the journey
ever.
we are on. And despite all the challenges we face, all the anxieties that people feel, I know we can get there. Others may talk about change. I will deliver it. I won't offer you false hope or quick fixes, but meaningful, lasting change. I want people to feel something that they do not always feel today. A belief that public services work for them. A knowledge that if you work hard in the good times, the state will be there for you during the bad. A hope that the world will be better for their children than it was for them. A sense of belonging in the place they call home.
What's sad as well is
I
that
guarantee
nothing he said there is anything I disagree with, right? All of these things about making sure that public services work in the got a country that we're passing down to our children, all that malarkey, you know, strengthening the bonds of family, all great. But literally, he has no plans to do this. B is the person who is literally directly responsible for the current crisis that we're in, and C, like, is someone whose belief in an ideology that literally directly opposes every single prescription that he's made there. Like,
Yeah. Literally, he's just lying.
I mean, like, and I think I'm gonna watch a segment later about, you know, millennials being lost by the Conservative Party, and it's just like, what their only real solutions is to stop being the Tories. That's it.
Yeah. If you could stop doing the things you want to do and
Yeah.
being horrible bastards, that would be cool. But they're not going to do that.
No.
that your priorities will be my priorities. I pledge that I will be honest about the challenges we face, and I will take the tough but necessary decisions to ensure our great country achieves its enormous potential. I will only promise what I can deliver, and I will deliver what I promise. Thank you.
Absolute dog shit.
But apparently the news questions are pretty vicious as well, so it should be quite fun.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
I love the guy with the floppy haircut. He's right in front of me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, I think we've got a good amount of time to take some questions from the media. Why don't I kick off Chris Mason from the BBC?
Prime Minister, thank you. Chris Mason, BBC News. The health service is under extraordinary...
Have you seen the newscast thing they do? The filmed podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Him and various other people. It's like the chummiest fucking bullshit. It's these fucking Westminster hacks getting together and sniffing each other's farts. It's amazing.
Well, it's all just a fucking game to these people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the journalists are so close to Westminster, right? They literally they're just mates with all these people. So it just feels like it is just a fucking game to these people. It's the journalists. I keep saying this, and I'll keep reiterating it. The journalist class in the United Kingdom are the absolute dirt worst in the entire world. Nothing compares to how garbage our private journalism sphere is, right? Obviously, you could say, oh well, there's the state TV of North Korea and Russia or whatever. How different is the BBC from the North Korean state broadcaster at this point, right? How much further do they have
Welcome
to go?
to the BBC 6 o'clock news. The dear leader today said he's going to cut inflation in half.
Well, exactly. Exactly. Well, to be fair, there was a point at which where even Faisal Islam couldn't give a good economic spin on the kind of nonsense neoliberal orthodoxy that they were trying to parrot with the reforms that Jeremy Hunt was proposing to, essentially cause the next financial crisis. Even Faisal Islam couldn't give them the benefit of the doubt anymore. And I'm like, yeah, they're fucked. They can't do it anymore.
Well, they literally, the man on the screen, the BBC had him as Superman.
Oh, it's embarrassing, isn't it? Really
That's literally, by the way, I'll show this for everyone. Anyone who thinks I'm making that up or that's hyperbole on my part, they literally put out this. It was a part of an infographic thing on the BBC website. Rishi Sunak as Chancellor of the Exchequer as fucking Superman, saving the economy. By the way, he destroyed the economy and he destroyed much of Britain, and that's the cartoon they used of him.
Yep.
Again, it's North Korea-esque. It genuinely is.
It really, really is. At the same time, when we're having Jeremy Corbyn as Voldemort, right?
Yeah, Jeremy Corbyn, vicious anti-Semite, but I definitely believe that Rishi Sunak made 12 holes in one in a row or whatever the fuck it was. It's definitely true.
Pressure right now, and some people watching this afternoon might say, is that it? How soon will things improve in the NHS this winter?
Thanks, Chris. Look, as I acknowledged right at the beginning of the speech, I think that's the thing that people are most worried about. And it's why when I talked about my 5 priorities, the 5 promises that I made to the country, making sure that we reduce waiting times in the NHS was one of them. It's something I've been working on a lot since I was PM, and that's why I want the country to hold me account for delivering it. Now, there are lots of things we are doing. This winter, for example, the most acute pressure we have is in A&E, and we can see that. So what I want the country to know is there are a range of things we're doing that will make a difference. The biggest problem we have is that there are, at the moment, around 13,000 people in hospital beds who ideally should be back in their communities or in social care. And that's what's making our hospitals full, and that's what's slowing the flow of people from ambulances into A&E and through. So what are we doing to address that? Well, we've put £500 million into what's called early discharge to help move people into the communities this winter.
Yeah, I've had a problem with early discharge once or twice.
Ayo!
We're rolling out something called virtual wards, which are where people, for example, who have acute respiratory infections can actually be treated at home with telemedicine or pulse oximeters, which will free up capacity in the NHS. We're rolling out a new fall service so that we can save about 55,000 ambulance call-outs a year by treating people with falls at home.
So what we're going to do
And
is
we need to do a
basically
better job in
put a sticking plaster on like each of the 4 gaping wounds of the Black Knight, like in Monty Python.
Yeah, it's just a flesh wound. Fine.
preventative medicine. So many people with undiagnosed high blood pressure who end up ultimately having a cardiac issue that requires an ambulance call out. So those are just some of the things that we're doing this winter that I am confident will make a difference. We also have a plan in place to get NHS waiting times when it comes to elective surgery down, and that's something that I'm confident we can
Aren't all
do.
those things just
And we will,
lowering the standards of
I
healthcare?
believe
Yeah.
in just a few months
Yes,
we've practically
yeah.
eliminated waiting times for those waiting a year and a half. We've already eliminated those waiting 2 years, and by next spring I think we'll have eliminated those waiting a year, and that's because we've got a clear plan.
When he
in place.
says
But what I want the
when he says eliminating these people, does he literally mean killing them?
I mean,
Because he's not talking about eliminating the numbers; he's talking about eliminating humans,
Yeah.
which is a bit on the nose, Rish. We know that's what you mean, but come on now.
I mean, at
At
least
least
you,
lie to
fin-
us.
finally being truthful.
Exactly. That is a promise I think he will keep. He will eliminate all people on waiting lists. Yeah, true.
country to know is this is an absolute priority for me. I made 5 promises today, and making sure that people can get the care that they need as quickly as they need it is right there as one of those priorities. The country should hold me to account for delivering it, and I'm confident that we will. Next, Carl Dinham from ITV.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Just on that point about having fewer people in hospital, and not
Bart.
more, paramedics tell us that you might even have to consider
The Northern Irish accent is amazing. Did you see that Colin Murray is now presenting Countdown?
Countdown.
Countdown.
I love it. That's great.
Genius.
I work the call centre I work at is based in Northern Ireland, so a load of my colleagues are from Belfast, and the accent, I love it so much. It's great.
No.
Or two.
pausing elective procedures in order to allow them to get people in the front door, as it were, of hospitals. Isn't this the wrong time to be concentrating on waiting lists when there are queues of ambulances trying to get people who need urgent care into hospital?
Well, Carl, the simple answer is we need to do both, right? And you heard my answer to Chris. There's a range of things we're doing that are going to make the most difference in the short term to A&E and urgent care. And as I said, the most pressing priority we have is to move people into social care into the communities. That will mean that we can actually get ambulances flowing as fast as we would like, and make sure that people are moving into A&E as quickly as we would like them to be seen. But your point on electives actually highlights the issue. That's what we shouldn't do, right? And that's what happened during COVID. We stopped doing elective surgery, right? The amount of elective activity in the NHS was down to about
We stopped doing elected fucking prime ministers as well. Cha-ching!
Heyo.
half of what it normally does. So the reason we've got a huge waiting list now is because we're having to catch up with that. And actually, one of our initiatives to stop that from happening again is to create what are called elective surgical hubs and community diagnostic centres, where people can get all the scans and the tests they need, and indeed the routine elective surgery like hip replacements and cataracts, away from the acute part of a hospital. Because if you do that, what you do is really increase our ability to treat people, because you don't have doctors constantly disrupted by doing routine appointments and then having to rush to deal with an emergency. That's the model that works really well. We're rolling out 300 community diagnostic centres and elective surgical hubs across the country, and that will allow us to do both. It will allow us to treat our parents, grandparents that are waiting for one of those surgeries that they need, but it will also allow us...
Oh, mother flipper. Come on.
To treat people in hospitals who need that urgent care. So, my priority is to do both, and I think the plans we've got in place will deliver it, and that's why we put more funding into the NHS. We can't forget that. Just a couple of months ago, the autumn statement, we had to make some very difficult decisions as a government to get our debt under control, to make sure that we
don't need to get the debt under control. Who fucking
cares?
cares?
Of all of those things,
don't give a shit. There's no point caring about the government.
It's made nonsense. And again, the magic money tree can appear whenever they need it.
Exactly. It fucking appeared for Michelle Moan, didn't it?
It appeared for her. It appeared for. There's another. The bankers are panicking like the fucking scared horses of the fucking economy.
Literally.
Let's pour billions in again.
All the MMTers all around the world, right? They have now got like definitive proof that it fucking works. Considering like how much money the Bank of England just creates out of nowhere to stabilize the pension funds after the fiscal event. Like simple, like, and did that, like, inflation was already incredibly high. Did that massive increase in the money supply actually affect like any amount of the inflation? No, the inflation was just still the same as what it was afterwards, right? And again, that was fine. We just did that. We just created the money out of thin air because that's how money actually works in a fiat currency system. Like, I had someone in my comments saying, "Well, actually, I think you'll find that they're taking the taxpayers' money and indemnifying the railway." The rail companies with that, and I'm like, I'm sorry. As much as I would love for that to be the case, so that we could use that to skewer the government, but unfortunately, it's a fiat currency. All of it is the government's. Every pound of it all belongs to the government.
It's fake money.
Yeah, it's literally.
It doesn't really exist. Like talking about the US debt ceiling, that amount of money doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't.
It's nonsense. The idea that they could ever even begin to pay that money back is ridiculous.
But I think the issue that they do. I mean, maybe I think it's more reasonable in the United States where they probably do have an actual demand issue because of the increase in the increase in money supply is probably a little bit more of an issue over there than it is over here because they're not affected by as many of the supply chain issues and cost push inflation that we are over here. Like the massive the amount that they've increased the money supply by, and not even by injecting it into like public services or some kind of non-inflationary government expenditure, they just printed a bunch of money and just gave it to everybody. And they didn't, and their productive output kind of went down as well. It's complicated, but the issue with the American money supply is more of an issue than it is here. They don't have a crisis of demand. Actually, when you look at the spending power of the poorest Americans, since Biden got elected, poor people's wage increases have outpaced inflation. That's one of the miracles of the Biden presidency, really. Like, outside of the fact that he's obviously a corporatist who's done, kneecap the unions. He's not exactly amazing or anything like that. But one thing he has done is used monetary policy to boost workers' wages. Why they didn't lose the midterms? Because whilst everyone was saying, oh, inflation will kill the Democrats, the people who would be most affected by it were all getting pay rises that were beating inflation anyway.
That's because Brandon's doing communism.
As far as the right wingers are concerned, any amount of fiat currency, increasing the supply of fiat currency, just is communism as far as they're concerned.
True.
All the hashtag abolish the Federal Reserve, gold standard type people, all the Bretton Woods fanatics, whoever it is, they all believe that fiat currency is just communism because it gives the government control over the money, essentially.
True. By the way, thank you. Everyone go and follow Kieran Saunders and Boy Meets Minnie, both of whom are in my chat and are awesome. And give me money and give No Justice MTG money.
Yes, please do give me the money. I would like to reiterate again for YouTube viewers, it is only 99p to become a YouTube member. I know there's people watching on YouTube who are not members. Please become a member. It's very cheap and you get emotes.
Yeah. Well, my new favourite, I've got a new slogan. I like a bit of dark humour. And my new one is throw money at me like I'm a Premiership referee. Which is gruesome. Because the Twitch people are in America, I don't think they'd even get the joke.
No,
so
quite.
TOS is fine.
There you go, it's fine. Oh no, my eye, I'm not supposed to get coins in it.
Exactly. Terrible.
into the NHS and social care, £14 billion over the next 2 years. Now we need to make sure that we deliver that money in the way that I described so that people feel the benefit in the care that they and their families receive. And we've got a clear plan to do it. My job is to deliver it, and then I want people to hold me for account for it. That's one of the 5 promises I made today. Beth Rigby from Sky.
Thank you. Prime Minister, look, we know to expect a reassuring performance from you, but in the real world, you can't get a train, you can't get a doctor's appointment, nurses are going to food banks, and when you do dial 999, you can't be sure that an ambulance is going to get there in time to save your loved one. That's the reality of Britain in 2023. And now you're here giving people more promises about how you might change the country that they've heard many times before during 13 years of Conservative rule. My question really is, why should the public believe you're any different to any of your predecessors?
Well, Beth,
Firstly, slay queen, slay.
Yeah.
And secondly, that's proper journalism. Yeah, point out to him how shit he is. Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
It's like why would anybody trust you?
Yeah.
What's frustrating is I don't think they're going to make the same statements towards Keir Starmer about all of the pledges that he's broken, or Rachel Reeves, what she said earlier today, where she literally just completely barefaced lie when someone on Radio 4 asked her, it was Nick Ferrari in LBC asked her like, people have known that your party previously has made unaffordable promises, and she responded by saying, yes, in the last 2 manifestos we had uncosted policies. And I was like, that's just a lie. That's complete lie. Both manifestos were completely fucking costed. I'm sorry, you can't just lie like brazenly about your own party.
And you
like
stood
that.
on them. You stood on them and never raised those
And
concerns.
yeah, you stood on them as an MP. Keir Starmer was in the fucking shadow cabinet at the time.
He was. Indeed
Like,
he was.
but do any of the journalists actually go out and say, "Oh, actually, Keir's lying about this"? How can we trust the Labour Party given the promises that you made during the leadership election? Will they do that to Keith fucking Starmer? Will they fuck?
No. But I suppose the big difference being that this isn't public policy that means anything because he doesn't get to enact it either way, at least yet. So it's not having a direct impact on people's lives in a way that if Rishi Sunak, gets out of bed the wrong side of the bed in the morning, he can make a decision that can kill people. Whereas Keith Starmer is making decisions that no one cares about, frankly, at this point.
I
I think that's basically the difference.
I mean, true, but like as JDM points out in my chat, like you say that that's good journalism, and I think JDM is correct in saying, well, actually, no, this is the minimum standard that we should be expecting from journalism. Literally,
Yeah, no, to be fair,
in any fashion, rather than just asking them a softball question. Like Chris Mason from the BBC just said, the NHS is bad. What are you going to do? And Rishi said, I have random patchwork solutions. They're like, oh, okay, oh, you do? Oh, you have patchworks? Oh, well, I'm reassured. Are you reassured, everybody? I'm totally reassured by that.
No, to be fair, when I say good journalism, I don't mean that's the best that we can do. That's the best we can expect.
Yeah, from a British journalist, no less, right? But like,
absolutely,
so
I find myself chastened by that criticism, but also having to accept it. Yes.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. When, like I said, like every single politician in this country should be like viciously attacked with absolute hostility, theoretically, as in the form of words, obviously, by journalists.
They need to be verbally accosted regularly.
Yeah, 100%, all the time. Every time that there's a media appearance, they need to be completely held to account. The fact that Therese Coffey is allowed to ever be on TV and not just be told that she's the dumbest person in politics.
No, but she listens to Dr. Dre. So shut up, okay? That's definitely real. She definitely does.
Like,
or was it Snoop Dogg or whatever?
Like, I mean, the only time you ever really see politicians get held to account nowadays is in select committees. That's the only time you ever see them answer tough questions. Like, honestly,
the most testing thing a politician's had to do is eat kangaroo bollocks.
I mean, that is also true. I mean, outside of Matt Hancock's escapades in the jungle, the only time they ever have to answer any tough questions is in select committees, where MPs are having to do journalists' jobs for them. It's excruciating that this is the point that we've gotten to, right?
Well,
it even happens internally, like people like Caroline Noakes. I mean, obviously she's a Tory, but at least she at some point has tried to get proper answers out of members of her own party.
Was it Tim? What's his face? He was the head of the fucking Immigration Select Committee or whatever. I can't remember. Anyway, Home Office Select Committee. Timurta? No, different one. Anyway,
Tim Burton's an Irish bowler.
that is true. Yes, he is. Who am I thinking of? Anyway, Tim something or other.
Yeah.
He's a Tory MP, and he had to literally call out the Braverman nonsense.
Yeah,
So,
literally said, like, if I am a person who has come into the country trying to claim asylum from whatever country in Africa, which isn't on the officially labelled countries where there's a legal route to come in, so I have to come in. There's no legal routes. What route do I take if I'm from fucking, I don't know, Eritrea, that's not on the official, visa, like free visa in Calais countries or whatever, or free visa to be able to fly here or whatever countries? What legal route do I have? And she couldn't fucking answer. She couldn't answer.
Tim Loughton.
There we go.
That was close
enough. Well, there's literally a fucking civil war in Ethiopia and Eritrea.
Yeah.
Like, right now, we're going to be getting refugees coming in from Tigray, etc.
Yeah, but look, well, can't they file their application there and just sort of wait?
But then, how are they even going to get there? Like, where are they going to get the money to fly from fucking Ethiopia to the UK?
Well, all I'm going to say is pull themselves up by their non-existent bootstraps.
Yeah, pull themselves by their own feet, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Pull yourself up by your own feet, unless the rebels have cut your feet off.
I know,
in which
right?
case,
although to be fair, the rebels. Although to be fair, the rebels are the good guys in this case. It's the Ethiopian government that's bad.
Okay, the Ethiopian government have cut their feet off.
Yeah, went out beyond. Do you know the Ethiopian president, who's the one who's causing doing crimes against humanity in Ethiopia right now, was given a fucking Nobel Peace Prize last year.
Brilliant.
He's the first centrist president of Ethiopia, basically since Haile Selassie was executed.
that country has had let's say a checkered past.
True.
Some issues going on there, Like, by comparison, Rishi Sunak is actually positively a wonderful leader.
Quite.
Country have seen me perform in the job before through really difficult times. They saw me as Chancellor during COVID. In fact, most of them probably didn't know who I was until I appeared on that press conference on their TV screens. And I'm proud of the record that I have as Chancellor. I think we moved at enormous...
A moment of actual humility. I'll be honest with you there. That's a little tick on his... I mean, it's covered in crosses constantly. But, there's a little tick for him there. An actual piece of humility. They probably didn't know who the fuck I was. Fair enough. Yeah.
I mean, reasonable. Actually, to be fair, of all of the chancellors that we've had over the past 12 years, he's probably the most recognisable since Osborne, because he was such a big part of the kind of the COVID response. Which, to be fair, I mean, he got some bits of it right at the very least. I mean, we certainly did better here than we did in the United States, for example.
He is Superman.
But the BBC were doing his job of making him well known for him by making him fucking Superman.
Superman, yeah. Whereas Corbyn was obviously at the Kremlin because he's a communist.
Well, there's a guy follow on Twitter called Jim Carris posted a story of the UK in 4 parts, where it's Jeremy Corbyn releases documents showing NHS for sale to the United States. Journalists probe Jeremy Corbyn for links for his NHS leak to the Kremlin. Third story is NHS trust serving 500,000 patients sold to US-based health firm. And then the fourth one is NHS basically on his knees. It's been destroyed by the Tory government. I'm like, that is British journalism in a nutshell.
Yeah. Absolute dog shit.
Yeah.
Speed and with competence to actually deliver interventions that made a difference to people's lives, that saved their jobs, protected their businesses. And so people can trust that when I say I'm going to do something, I am going to do it. And the second thing is, I've been very clear, as I said today, unambiguous. I made 5 very simple promises. The country's priorities are my priorities. I want to be held account for them. There's no ambiguity about them. There's no tricks. People will know whether I'm delivering on these things. And I'm confident that we can. I really am. And you talk about the record. Actually, I'm not going to say the NHS wasn't under any pressure before COVID. Of course it was, but there were places where things were really improving. And you look at ambulance times, for example, Category 2, we were just about at target before COVID hit.
And it's
undeniable, though, that COVID has had an impact.
Well, literally the only positive thing you can say about the NHS is
a lot of
target.
A lot of passive voice nonsense going on in that sentence. Really.
I love that. Which, especially considering the targets have been continually
Like,
revised down.
he's damning himself with faint praise.
I know, right?
It's amazing.
It's
well
God.
done.
You couldn't make this shit up again. Like Armando Iannucci's just literally out of a fucking job at this point.
Yeah, true. Ninth vote has happened. Literally the exact same result.
Was it
literally?
I thought I saw
the
on Twitter
exact same.
I thought I saw on Twitter that McCarthy was losing votes and he got one less this time.
Oh, sorry, yeah, 201. No, yeah, because he's down to 200 now.
Did
Yeah.
someone go present or vote for Donald's?
I don't think they must have just not voted because there's 20 other, one present, which is the same, 212 for Jeffries, and then just 200 for McCarthy.
Yeah, they would have just not turned up.
So someone just went, "Oh fuck this! I'm
Only
going
takes
home."
8 more. 8 more people don't turn up, and Hakeem Jeffries is the speaker.
Yeah, but like, there are some old motherfuckers in that room. If they carry on like this, 8 of them will die soon. So like, it's just a matter of like potluck. Who dies first? More Democrats or more Republicans?
Yeah.
And then we'll see who becomes. It's literally election via who dies first.
I mean,
The most boring Thunderdome situation ever.
I mean, unfortunately, it's the Democrats. I mean, they might start killing each other. They might start like fucking
True.
bringing the knives out. And like, we'll be the first people to have enough votes.
Civil War II, Electric Boogaloo. Let's go.
Quite so. But like, and someone JDM's pointing out in chat again. Like, we've just said here, right? That he's already admitting that they didn't quite hit a target that they had already revised it down to try and hit it to make it look less bad. Considering if you compare it, right? I hate how to give New Labour plaudits, but on the NHS they were successful in bringing down things like waiting times. Where what was the target? 48 hours under.
48 hours, and they met it like it was like 96% success rate.
Yeah, they had a gigantic. And now that the wait rate is like fucking a week or some shit, which they've already revised down, and they're missing it anyway.
GP's appointment. It's ridiculous.
Exactly, like literally, we revised down the target, and we revised down even because we weren't hitting what the kind of basic thing that the previous government were hitting, previous administration were, and we're still missing it. And the journalists were. I will eat a fucking Quality Street rapper live on air if any of the journalists point out that he's pointing out that he's already missed a target that he'd already revised down.
Yeah, exactly. You hired the limbo bar and you still couldn't get under it.
Yeah, exactly.
Genius.
You accidentally put on a hat whilst you're trying to limbo.
A stovepipe hat. What were you thinking?
I talk about the fact that
there's a time and a place for Abraham Lincoln cosplay, and in limbo competition, it's not one of them.
That's definitely worth clipping. Someone in Kev's chat.
surgery was paused during COVID. You can look at the same with cancer referrals. They were down by a third or 2/3 during COVID, and now obviously there are far more than normal, right? So that's why that's not performing as well as we would like it to, but it's improving. So look, COVID has had an impact. It's not an excuse. This is one of my 5 promises. People know what I did for them during COVID as Chancellor, and that's why I'm here today, being very clear about what I'm going to deliver for them and the country as Prime Minister. I'm very confident we can do that, but ultimately people will hold me to account for doing so. Right, Olivia Utley from GB News.
Oh, GBBs.
I wonder how incisive her questions are going to be. She's another one who's like, you just look at her face and you can tell that she's posh.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's called Olivia Utley. Like,
Yeah,
it sounds like literally a name from a Dickens novel.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit Chuzzlewit.
Yeah,
Definitely. I can't even hear her.
So I was very clear about the importance of family to me, and actually I think it's good that we talk about family because it's a wonderful thing that we should talk about more.
Didn't hear the question.
And I specifically talked about part of modern families today is making sure that we can balance between work life and family life, and childcare is obviously an important part of that. The government and I am completely committed to ensuring good availability and affordability and flexibility of childcare. That's what we're always looking to deliver and improve on the offers that we have. There's a consultation that is out at the moment, and we're in the process of considering about some reforms, and it wouldn't be right for me to comment on that now. But the fact that I've spent time talking about family hopefully gives you and everyone some confidence that it is important to me, and we want to make sure that we support families in all their forms to have happy, fulfilling lives that are filled with love and nurturing for their children in the same way that I was fortunate to benefit from.
And again, like
Gary Gibbon from Channel 4 News.
When we go into the family point again, I just have to reiterate just one more time in the actually this is just again another compounding issue with their lack of funding that's gone through and the way in which they've shaped the economy that we live in currently. In the obviously given the point I was previously making about childcare being a really big issue for families at the moment because our wages have been constrained so much that we can't afford to only have a single breadwinner in a household as a family. We have to have multiple people going to work, which means that we also need the childcare. So because the state has led to the economic conditions that allow corporations and companies to pay their workers dog shit wages, that has then meant that we've had to have multiple people going into work, which has then meant the states had to pick up the tab paying for childcare. So,
Yeah.
like, again, it's the government subsidising shitty companies, just like they do with housing benefits, subsidising shitty landlords, and just by the amount of people who are in work using fucking food banks. Everything comes back down to the casualisation of the workforce and the reduction in wages and the kind of the lack of union density and the kneecapping of the unions, the inability and the consistently rising gap between rich people and poor people in this country, both within the amount of tax they pay, within the amount of ability that they have to interact with the economy, and just in general at how much they're paid at the end of the day. And that's just the source of every fucking problem.
Yeah. Update from across the pond. They're going for a 10th loss.
Brilliant.
But they're literally going to do a 10th one.
Brilliant.
Amazing. America, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing?
I mean, to be fair, this reminds me of like the meaningful votes. Remember when Boris Johnson first became Prime Minister?
God,
He broke the
yeah,
record
true.
for the most amount of votes lost by a sitting Prime Minister.
That was pretty special. Yeah. Good days. Good days. Yeah,
I mean, it's the same. It's literally just a bunch of rebels kneecapping the government.
yeah, pretty much.
Could I just, in the interest of clearing up any ambiguity, clarify which of these pledges are for this year? Halving inflation this year, you said, in line with most forecasts, including the ABR. What about the others? Growing the economy this year? NHS waiting lists falling this year? You said new laws to stop small boats. Well, maybe you could do that this year, but would you stop small boats this year? And
No,
could I
the
ask,
answer is obviously
another
no.
question? Over recent months, years, actually, Britain's often been compared with Italy and the political and economic crises that happened there. They've occasionally had, to restore calm, a technocrat who's taken over. Are you our technocrat?
Gary, on the five promises I made.
These are all the horrendous things that are happening under your watch and your government. And my question is, do you think you're a technocrat?
Yeah, it's again the standard of British. These are the better journalists, apparently.
literally, these are supposed to be the good
This
ones.
is the cream of the crop.
Anyway, with that in mind, should we move on to Keith whilst we've got some time?
Yeah, let's do that because, well, yeah, exactly. Talking of the cream of the crop.
Quite.
Yes.
So I have got. I mean, if you thought I was interrupting too much during fucking Sunak's speech, I am full of daggers for Keith because I've heard some of the shit. Loads of the things that he has said have kind of gone viral on Twitter, and I know that this speech is just so garbage, and there's so many holes to point out that I just have to. It's just, oh God, he's just horrendous. And again, another post who probably needs to be listened to 1.25 times.
Yes, almost certainly. Let's do that from the get go.
So let me just say that.
By the way, the only leftist thing about the modern Labour Party is its fucking audio.
Why have they done it in a factory as well? God,
they're
it's so
doing it
performative.
Yeah, they're in front of machines that do things. Anyway,
both political parties treat the electorate like we're absolutely completely moronic.
Yeah. Anyway, so the leftist audio on this occasion is not from my end; it's from the maybe soon to be governing party of the country.
But again, it's just like when you see MPs who are getting interviewed on Zoom on the news or whatever, and they're using like their laptop mic and laptop, or not even probably even their laptop camera, like a cheap webcam that clips onto the top of their laptop, getting like potato sound calls. Like, you're a sitting MP, you can literally take out expenses for a £15 ring light. And for like a £50 camera, like just that this is the people supposed to be representing us. And you can't do audio or video correctly. You have whole teams to do this shit. I am just a random shitter sitting in her bedroom talking crap on YouTube, and I have better audio and video than basically any MP ever.
True.
I will introduce Britain's next Labour Prime Minister, Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you for all your hard work for our party, for our country. And Happy New Year to everyone here. Thank you so much for coming along this morning. And welcome to UCL here East. Now, this is a bit of London that some of you are getting pretty familiar with in the last few days.
Also, you'll notice he's got his shirt sleeves rolled up because he's a hard worker.
Yeah, his dad's a tool maker.
He's just like us. He's just one of us, you know.
It's just like a regular
that,
person. Like literally, the audio is so bad. He sounds like he's speaking to us through a transistor radio.
No, he's a Dalek, man.
He's a Dalek. we had eliminate from Rishi. Well, we have exterminate from Keith.
Yeah.
Don't tell the Prime Minister where I'm going on holiday this year, just in case I find him there as well. But look, 2023 marks a new chapter for Britain. With a new king to be crowned in May.
Actually, JDM has pointed out in the chat as well. You know what this actually does sound like? It's Alan Partridge speaking at the county fair.
Yes, it does sound exactly like that. And it's appropriate because he's a very much a kind of Alan Partridge-esque character.
He really is, isn't he?
Yeah.
She's a drunk racist. I'll tolerate one, but not both.
Yeah, exactly.
But for hope to flourish, Britain needs change. And I don't think anyone seriously disputes that. It's the story of the country right now. Amidst all the chaos is a growing impatience for change, for real change, lasting change, national renewal. And yes, as they've done throughout our history, the British people are turning to Labour to provide that change.
Apart from you not changing anything.
Yeah, apart from that.
In 2022, they looked at us again, and I felt, for the first time in a while, we could return their gaze with confidence. That the changes...
Oh, you want to return all the gay people, I see.
Outrageous.
I see.
We've made on anti-Semitism, on national security
Oh,
and NATO,
for God's sake.
on making economic stability the platform for everything we do, has restored a degree of trust, laid a foundation. And this year, we've got to build on that. People know we care. They always know the Labour Party cares. And they can now see a party that is both competent and compassionate. A party that understands what it means to put service to the country first.
Again, I'm not fucking with the audio levels. If it goes quiet and then goes loud again, that's literally on their end.
Yeah, the single leftist part of the Labour
yeah.
Party right now. Like I said, we've gained your trust by telling you a bunch of things we would do and then completely reneging on literally every single one of them.
What's this? Which of these problems should be the higher priority for the UK government? Teenagers taking medications to alter their hormones, women having abortions, they are about the same. What? Oh, you governmental. Sorry. Okay.
And so that's kind of weaselly worded as well.
Yeah, poor form.
Like, how can we deliberately describe trans healthcare to make it sound as scary as possible? It's like when you describe, like, I don't know, like an appendectomy in like incredibly gruesome method.
Well, I love it when they go and like, oh, the young, there are 5-year-olds having their tits chopped off. What does that mean? What are you talking about?
Like, they'll either say things that don't happen, or they'll describe things that do happen in the most kind of nebulously horrific way possible. Like when it's like those memes you see about people saying what's inside a vaccine, and then saying, "Oh well, do you know what this is?" And you name a bunch of like chemicals, and that's just the contents of an apple. And I'm like, well, yeah, exactly. That's how these weird kind of that's how grifters will try and make their money.
Okay, but what are the chemicals that they put in the water to make the frogs go?
True. The best kind of chemicals.
Exactly.
Colleagues, our task for 2023 is not to rest on our laurels. We need to push forward and rise to the moment. Prove we can be a bold reforming government. Show not just what the Tories have done to Britain, but the Britain that Labour can build. A fairer, greener, more dynamic country, with an economy that works for everyone, not just those at the top. And a politics which trusts communities with the power to control their destiny. A new government and a new way of governing. Britain needs both. And with Labour, Britain will get both.
Woo. I can't believe someone whooped that. Like, it reminds me of when you see that you watch a golf from America and they'll say, "Get in the hole," from a tee shot. But it's a par 5, mate. No one could possibly drive. Why? What do you do? Who's whooping at that point?
I'd like to see that on Mastermind. I'm gonna try and answer the questions correctly. Woo!
Yeah. Keith,
That's my message of hope for the new year. We're going to roll up our sleeves, fix the problems, and improve our country. We can't keep expecting the British people to just suck it up. Not without the hope, the possibility of something better. Don't get me wrong, I'm under no illusions about the scale of the challenges we face. Houses that get burgled countless times, yet the police never come. Hospitals, if you can believe it, putting out messages, begging patients to stay away from A&E. Children going to school hungry. And it's not just the poorest who are struggling. Millions of families, pensioners, working people, people who've always kept their heads above water.
For a second there, I thought he was going to say something like, we're going to do a private public finance initiative with Marcus Rashford to feed your children.
I wouldn't.
Would have been an
put it past him.
amazing thing. Yeah. We're just going to outsource feeding your children permanently to Marcus Rashford.
Going without decent food and heating. Cutting back on their holidays, their meals out, Christmas presents, all the little things that make life more enjoyable. Now, sometimes people say to me, we'll get through this. Britain's been through worse. And they're right. I grew up working class in the 1970s. I know what a cost of living crisis feels like. The anxiety and, yes, the shame of not being able to pay bills that only months ago were affordable. Our phone was cut off like this. And by the way, that was it. There were no mobiles back then. We got through it. Britain will get through it. The problem is that's exactly what the Tories are banking on. They're going to turn around in 2020.
Jesus Christ, how bad is the buffering on my stream right now? Someone's just responding to the frog joke I did 10 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, Twitch is fucked right now.
Yeah, Twitch is absolutely fucking wilding.
Yeah,
no wonder no one's fucking watching. It's good that everyone's gone, fuck this, and left.
When I was saying this when I was streaming on Tuesday, Twitch was having problems then as well. I don't know if you were around for that. I don't know if you're streaming yourself, but and they were like, make sure you don't end your stream, No Justice, because if you do end your stream, you're not going to be able to start it back up because Twitch have cancelled a bunch of them because they're having problems and had to do maintenance, and it's only existing streams that are allowed to continue. And I'm like, well, I'm dual streaming to YouTube, and I genuinely would love to only stream on YouTube. But there's just a couple of features that Twitch does better, and a bunch of the followers are just generally Twitch people, and there's because Twitch got there first, they kind of already have a monopoly over the live streaming platforms, which I find very frustrating because YouTube is just better for the vast majority of.
And you can subscribe there for 99p. So
for just 99p for membership, and when people get the membership, when people buy memberships from you, if they're watching your live stream, it boosts your live video in the algorithm so people can find it naturally. That's just kind of discoverability, just literally does not exist on Twitch.
Yeah. But you can give me money and give No Just MTG money. True. And don't give Keir Starmer money because he's already quite rich.
True. Or give money to your trade union. Join a union. Do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just generally a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
And try to claim some kind of political credit for the sacrifices working people are making right now. As if it's not their mistakes people are paying for again. But at the heart of this cynical politics,
what the fuck? Did his audio cut out? That's amazing.
It's like,
to be honest,
do you remember Theresa May with the letters falling off the back of the wall?
Oh, that was genius, yeah. But we're getting as much information about Labour policy now that we can't hear him as when we could hear him.
Yeah.
So
true.
Yeah. I'm going to skip forward and see if we can get some audio going. Nope.
I believe in our.
There we go.
I believe in our businesses.
He was only silent for about a minute. That's brilliant. Well done, Keith.
I believe in our people, and I believe in our spirit. It was there in the coming together for the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh, God. Fuck off, Keith. Fuck off. Oh, my God. This is so... It's just, like... And the thing is people will, on the right, quite correctly accuse them of virtue signalling, because it's literally all this is. It's just virtue signalling.
Yeah.
Refugees into their homes from Ukraine. And
I, as a young boy, always dreamed of being a baseball.
True. Don't blame me. I voted for Kang.
Quite.
of our retailers, our pubs and venues, the creative industries fighting back from the pandemic. The brilliance of key workers, nurses, doctors, teachers, volunteers and carers who got us to that point. It's in our love of sport and our excellence at it. The double world champion cricketers, the Commonwealth Games that were a beacon of diversity, the lionesses who brought football home.
Oh, literally fuck off. Oh,
How do you do, fellow sports fans?
oh God, I hate it when people get tokenized, and like as a straight, well, not straight, but as a white able-bodied cis dude, it's weird to be like tokenized in a way at all. But as a sports fan, to be tokenized in that way, I don't like it. It's weird. Stop it, Keith. Go back to doing it to brown people or something, please.
But they're not swing voters. Like, I was looking at the stats as well. Like,
True.
in 2019, I think it was like something like 70% of black people voted for Labour, and there was only 14% or something voted for the Tories. Like, they are the biggest demographic, like non-swing demographic. They just overwhelmingly vote for Labour, and that's why Keith is happy to fucking bin them. That's why Keith is happy to literally be happy to let anti-black racists in his party, because he just he believes that he doesn't need to get their votes.
Yeah. Well, if we're talking about the double world champion cricketers, surely it's more swing bowlers than swing voters. Hey, I am puntastic.
Quite. And true. And if there is one thing that makes me proud to be British, it's fucking Jimmy Anderson.
True. Well, and unlike the current England Test team, he's very good at spin. Spin, you see? Because spin bowling. God, I'm good at this.
Here all
Our
week.
universities, our young people,
True.
the researchers in this building and those like it, our manufacturing genius, our superpower services, our startups and innovators, the green entrepreneurs, the builders and retrofitters, insulators and engineers who will bring us energy independence and cheaper bills, the scientists making healthcare more responsive, saving more lives.
Oh God, is
And
he
it's
doing
about
innovation
communities
porn as
in
well?
towns and cities like Burnley, Wolverhampton, Grimsby and Swindon.
All are shit. All of them are shit. Fuck off.
Is Wolverhampton that shit? It was fine when I went.
I've been there. Wolverhampton is a garbage dump. We should
Fair.
pave over it, except it's already paved over. It's just
Well,
a concrete
let's be fair.
shell.
Him talk at places like Grimsby. I mean, they are dumps, but the only reason that they are dumps is because the Tories have continually just
True.
defunded them and ruined them.
Yeah, they've ruined all of the industries that made those things viable places. Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Literally.
And to be fair, although it might actually have been their plan all along, because as I've mentioned previously, like the demographic, like if you're a young person growing up in Grimsby, like you're gonna go to university in some city, why the fuck would you move back to Grimsby? Why would you fuck when you move back to Grimsby when there's no jobs and no hope?
Yep.
So you've concentrated all the Labour voters in the cities where the universities are, and all of the property-owning boomers who are never going to move out of Grimsby have turned these manufacturing communities full of workers who'd vote Labour into kind of ghost towns full of boomer pensioners with mortgages or who own their homes outright, who are only ever going to vote Tory. So that might be their model of that. It's like kind of their version of electioneering.
True, but those people are going to die.
I mean, that's the big issue, right? Obviously, I'm going to touch on that later. There's a whole thing about millennials becoming more left wing over time that I want to go over. And the Conservatives just seem to have forgotten the fact that they can win elections now. What happens when their single demographic, who they gifted literally everything to, passes away? Because their kids are going to be so left wing by the time they get the inheritance. They're not going to have time to move right wing after they've got a bunch of the stuff that they're supposed to want to conserve.
Exactly. I hope the Zoomers are so rabidly left-wing that they drag me into the streets and string me up for being a reactionary.
I mean, amusingly, Zoomers are actually less left-wing than millennials. Still very left-wing in comparison, but slightly less left-wing. I think there's this kind of confluence within millennials of growing up in the 90s, being promised the future by saying, go to university, get a good job, and you'll be successful, giving all the promises of capitalism, right? Go the booming university degree, saying, go to university, you'll be able to get your dreams, and then immediately like graduating or just going into university as soon as the financial crash happened, and all of those dreams died overnight. People with English literature degrees not being able to get jobs at McDonald's or whatever, for example, and that whole like a British/American dream style shit. It basically instantly dying overnight, whilst their dreams of home ownership never existing ever. Like they've been there's this all of these different situations kind of come together in millennials in the kind of demographic that they are. So much so that their point of their political ideology is just completely cemented forever, and there's nothing that and Zoomers, they were never promised anything. They've grown up in a world of like gig economy jobs and climate apocalypse. That they're not as given the kind of the revolutionary fervor, I guess, that millennials have. Which is why I think it's so important. It's one of the things I wanted to do. I mean, amusingly, my channel is actually probably watched by more older people than younger people. But if younger people watch, like, on TikTok, the important thing I want to put across is things don't have to be like this. The work 70 hours a week hustle culture shit is just window dressing to make you think that the 40-hour work week that used to buy you a house that doesn't now is okay. Like, that reduction in living standards is something that you should accept. Like, no, this isn't what you should accept. This isn't how it never used to be. This is a function of the society that was created by boomers, and it can be changed back. That's the important thing I'm trying to impress upon these people, that it's not all doom and gloom. There is a better world that we used to have, and we can get it, which will, and we vote for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad you admitted that your channel is boomer central.
I mean, it really is. I think my two biggest demographics are 45 to 55 and 65 plus for some reason.
Boomers.
Which is, they're probably frustrated by me continually ragging on boomers. Like, the segment I'm going to do about millennials and millennial politics is going to have a massive diatribe against boomers. But I would like to say, if you're a leftist boomer watching my channel, clearly it's not directed at you. It's directed at your incredibly irritating brethren.
True.
Where the people will tell you, in no uncertain terms, that they do have ambition for themselves and their community. What they lack is a government that shares their ambition. Because all these achievements I've listed, all that possibility, is a testament to our untapped potential. So this year, let's imagine instead what we could achieve if we match the ambition of the British people. Unlock their pride and their purpose. Give them an economy and a politics that they deserve.
Unfortunately, the British public have gotten a politics that they deserve. A shit one.
Well, exactly. As I keep saying every single time any of this happens, I'm like, literally, this country got exactly what it wanted.
Yeah, you voted to shoot yourself in the dick by leaving the EU. You voted to elect, a vaguely sentient, sex pest, fucking straw man humanoid figure as Prime Minister with a massive majority. You're idiots. You get the shit out you deserve.
I mean, to be fair, like, I don't think it's entirely their fault that they live in a country where the journalism sphere is so completely cucked to the establishment and establishment power that they just continually lie, right? And I think that's why the lie continues. That's why they continue pushing this nonsense line that they have, that you can't, like, for example, one kind of thing that seems to be economic orthodoxy across the media political spectrum is the idea that you can't spend your way out of a recession, which is the opposite of truth. Like, literally the one thing that got us through the last recession was quantitative easing. So we should do more of that shit, right? We need to spend our way out of this recession. But if any journalist for a moment even admitted that any of the kind of right-wing propaganda, economic propaganda that they were doing for the entirety of the last 13 years was in any way true, they would then know that they would be culpable for all the people that are fucking dead. They would have to look into the mirror and realise that they assisted a government full of people who were engaging in democide, and they wouldn't be able to live with that shit. So they can't let up the pretense for 1 second.
Yeah.
This is crucial because economic change must go hand in hand with political change. We have an economy that hoards potential and a politics that hoards power. And it's no coincidence, no accident, that this leaves us with more regional inequality than anywhere else in Europe. They feed off each other. And that's why I say Britain needs a completely new way of governing. Yes,
Do we really have worse regional inequality than Italy?
Or like Greece or some shit.
Yeah, like because the south of Italy is essentially, economically speaking, a desert, whereas the north is very rich. Is it as bad as that?
Hmm.
That's wild. If that's true, but I mean, it's Keith saying it, so who knows?
Well, Ed, who doesn't know? I mean, what we are is the most class unequal country in Europe. The gap between
Well,
the
that's
rich and the poor is
possible, yes.
worse in the UK than actually. John Byrne Murdoch did the numbers. Like as of this year, I think or last year, I guess we're now even more unequal than Slovenia.
Which isn't really even a place. It's made up
Like,
to
and
scare Italy.
we're dropping down in human development index and Gini coefficient, like loads of shit. We're just continually falling down the rankings of.
Look, Ljubljana is not a real place for a real name for a real city. It's ridiculous. Shut up, Slovenia.
We need to use the power of dynamic government, harness technology to drive through reform, convene a real industrial partnership between business and unions. But all of that must be done in service of a politics which trusts communities. I'm utterly convinced about this. The Westminster system is part of the problem. Now, I came into politics late in my career. I've run large organisations, institutions that had to serve our country, and I've changed them all, including the Labour Party. That's why I came into politics 8 years ago. A new way to serve, a new way to get things done, more opportunities to change our country for the better. But I have to say, I haven't found much of that in Westminster. Yes, there are good people, of course there are. Many MPs share my determination to tackle Britain's problems quickly. But as a system, it doesn't work. You know, sometimes I hear talk about a huge day in Westminster. But all that's happened is someone has passionately described a problem. And then that's it. Nothing's changed. The circus moves on. Rinse and repeat. Honestly, you can't overstate how much a short-term mindset dominates Westminster.
It's a very
And from
amusing.
there, how it infects all the institutions which try.
It's very amusing for him to make this specific criticism, given that he's someone who, for literally the past 2.5 fucking years, we've consistently said, tell us what you're going to do, give us a policy, tell us how you're going to fix a problem, and he's only given us platitudes. He's spent the entirety of his time as Labour Party leader just describing problems. For him to criticise anybody else for something like that is just a supreme hypocrisy.
Very much so, yes. I mean, I think it's terrible that the Queen Elizabeth was criticising other people for dying. Outrageous. Is Twitch really that bad? Right, oh, fuck's sake. Apparently Twitch is really laggy and shit, but we'll plough through and see how we go.
And fail to run Britain from the centre. I call it sticking plaster politics. Sticking plaster politics. And in a kind of last-minute frenzy, it sometimes delivers relief. But the long-term cure, that always eludes us. And it's at the heart of all the problems we see across the country right now. I'll give you an example. Energy and the cost of living crisis. Now, thank heavens we have a price freeze this winter. That Labour's campaigning in the summer eventually brought the government to our position and its senses. But
No, they didn't. They didn't do a second windfall tax. The Labour position was a second windfall tax, and they didn't do one. They just borrowed a bunch of money, which, to be fair, was a policy that was initially put forward by the fucking Liberal Democrats, then the Labour copied. So if actually to be truthful, it was Ed Davey who was holding the government's feet to the fire.
Yeah, fuck me, the effective opposition. Good lord.
Of sticking plaster politics. Necessary, of course, but nonetheless an expensive last-minute fix, papering over cracks in our energy security that have been on display for years. But don't get me wrong, nobody criticises the government for the effects of the war in Ukraine. But the war didn't scrap home insulation, the war didn't ban onshore wind, and the war didn't stall British nuclear energy. The Tory government did that.
Whoa. Keith. Don't let fucking Nick Clegg off the hook about nuclear power. Let's not fucking forget Nicholas fucking Clegg. Because my God, he's just as much to blame as they are for something like the.
But he owns Facebook now, so sure.
I hate Nick Clegg so much.
I think even Nick Clegg hates Nick Clegg.
I mean,
to be fair.
True. He looks in the mirror and just says, "What a piece of shit. You're useless."
What's this? Twitch status. What's this? We're identified an issue preventing people from broadcasting. We're currently working on a solution. Well, thank you for that, Twitch, but that tells me literally nothing. You are as useless as Keith. I'm now watching Kev and listening to No Justice on YouTube. That's probably fair. Yeah. Well, I mean, by rights, you should have all 3 streams open to give us views.
True, and click the like button on my YouTube stream. Even if you leave immediately, make sure you click the like button.
Yeah, but you shouldn't leave immediately.
No,
because view length also counts to algorithms.
That's also true. Have it muted in the background.
Exactly.
And then become a member.
For as little as 99p.
Can arrest right.
With the NHS and care and with all our public services. The workforce and morale crisis has been an iceberg on the horizon for years. Low pay, housing, childcare, immigration, planning, skills, investment in technology. Time and again, it's the same pattern. You saw it yesterday from the Prime Minister. Commentary without solution. More promises, more platitudes. No ambition to take us forward. No sense of what the country needs. 13 years of nothing but sticking plaster politics. It's why every crisis hits Britain harder than our competitors. The only country in the G7 still poorer than it was before the pandemic. The worst decade for growth in 2 centuries. 7 million on waiting lists and rising. That hasn't happened elsewhere. You know, one of the greatest privileges of being born in Britain, certainly for all of my life, is knowing that if you get ill, if you have a serious accident, you'll get decent healthcare, whatever your circumstances.
And that actually is true. That's actually legitimately true. Even now, as bad as the NHS has been allowed to become because of Tory purposeful mishandling, because they're trying to sell it off, we still have better healthcare than the vast majority of humans on Earth, and that's an amazing thing. It's a beautiful thing, and the fact that the British people have endangered that by voting for people who pretty obviously want to destroy it.
I mean, literally,
very sad state of affairs.
The fact that, you will tell people that Jeremy Hunt wrote a fucking book about privatising the NHS, and they'll just go oh, what did he? And I'm like, yeah, because no journalist ever fucking told you. At a time when he was literally at war with the junior doctors, at not one point did any of the journalists think to mention this possibly slightly irrelevant fact that this guy wrote a book about privatising the NHS. It's unreal to me. Unreal that our journalism class is so pathetic that they don't even mention it.
Yeah.
Not every country has that. And the anxiety it causes is huge. It's why 11 years ago, in the Olympic Stadium a few hundred yards away, we put the NHS on display to the world. It's who we are. We can't let sticking plaster politics destroy it. I won't stand for that, and Labour won't stand for that.
And we're going to give him more privatisation.
Yep. We won't stand for that, but ultimately nothing will actually substantially change. Thanks, Keith.
I mean, that's a good point. He's obviously said that the main thrust of his speech that he's doing here is saying that he wants to get rid of platitudes with no concrete solutions. So we're going to keep a tally of how many actual policy prescriptions that he has and how he's going to solve it. If he doesn't tell us that, it doesn't fucking count.
Yeah.
That's why we've got a fully costed plan for the biggest NHS training programme in our history. We'll tackle the capacity crisis with more doctors, more nurses, more health visitors. And we'll broker a fair pay agreement that will transform the pay conditions for every...
So just again, platitudes, more doctors. Where are they going to come from?
Yeah, just magic them out of the ether. Where are they going to come from? Apparently, not from abroad, because he's already said that he doesn't want to recruit any more NHS staff from abroad.
Yeah, which, good luck with that, I guess.
Yeah, quite.
Give care workers the respect and the status that they deserve, and help them drive up standards in our care system. That's a massive part of the NHS crisis. I heard the Prime Minister yesterday, and he's still in denial about how we got here. Still too weak to challenge the vested interests in his party that hold Britain back. Don't expect that to change. On planning, on onshore wind, on the NHS.
Interesting how he won't say who the vested interests are, and he can't say who the vested interests actually are because he wants to woo them to fund his party.
Don't know, you're sounding very anti-Semitic now.
I am. I am doing a heckin' anti-Semitism right now on stream
True.
in 4K. I mean, actually, like 1080p. But
Well,
like,
and also because Twitch is having problems, I would go down to 480p. Really.
my end,
Yeah.
my YouTube stream was getting 1080p.
Well, that's because YouTube's a well-run site, or at least from a technical point of view, well-run.
Yeah.
It's shit elsewise, but you know.
True.
Years, nor ever. Fundamentally, the Tories don't accept that to help working people succeed, you need dynamic government. Government driven by a strategic purpose. They don't see that the challenges we face on climate change, artificial intelligence, caring for an ageing society means a hands-off approach to our economy and public services just won't wash anymore. And this is a real political divide. But it's not just Tory ideology that drives sticking plaster politics. It's the whole Westminster system. No similar country puts so much decision-making in the powers of so few people. It's no wonder the problems of communities up and down the country don't get the attention they deserve. Just think about it practically for a minute. Imagine Britain is a workplace. Now, the boss and the senior management, yes, of course, they have to take some of the big decisions.
This is part of the problem, is trying to think that you can run these things like they're businesses.
Yeah.
They aren't. Stop thinking of them in this way. That's because it's not that. It's a different fucking setup.
Exactly. It's frustrating. It's so infuriating that we kind of have to go through this shit every time.
Yeah. Oh shit! Thank you for the gifted sub, by the way, Wayward. Much love.
Decisions, the strategic ones. You wouldn't have them taking every decision, would you? Standing over your shoulder, telling you exactly how to use a robot arm, getting them to.
You see, because he's got robot arms behind him. See, he learned.
No, I don't think he realizes that. I think it's because he has robot arms himself, Keithbot.
Yeah, it's like Inspector Gadget, but shit.
Code for computer-aided manufacturing? Of course not. Nothing would get done. Big decisions would get put off because you wouldn't be able to see the wood for the trees, while other decisions taken by the wrong people, not close enough to the action, would get botched. Yet this is exactly how we try to run Britain. It's why, for all the talk of levelling up, nothing ever happens.
True.
It's just that old game of passionately identifying a problem, rather than facing the real solution and accepting Westminster must give power away. Well, no more. No more sticking plaster politics. No more Westminster hoarding power. No more holding back this country's economic potential. This year, we're going to show how real change comes from unlocking the pride and purpose of British communities.
See, now, I'm actually genuinely interested as to the details of this plan that he apparently has to remove power from Westminster. Because, frankly, anything that takes power away from Westminster is a good thing. Fuck that place.
The problem that we have here, though, is that what he's saying is we will give more power to communities to do what they want. Like, I think Lisa Nandy specifically, as a policy she wants to push, which is called like community right to buy, where like kind of you can vote as a local authority to be able to have like some kind of failing business absorbed into the kind of the community. I forget exactly how it's going to work, but like if a pub closes down, the community can come together to try and buy it out to run it, which I think is actually a really good idea. Lisa Nandy is one of the less objectionable people in the Shadow Cabinet. But what Keith is really saying here, right? What he's really saying is that he's trying to ensure that Middle Englander mortgage owner type people, the people he's explicitly said, like the Labour spin doctors have said, they're trying to woo middle-aged male homeowners, right? Mortgage holders, for example. The reason he's saying they want to make sure that there's power is that they know that the things they're scared about is just people building houses nearby. Like Westminster housing targets. He's signalling to the exact same people that Liz Truss was signalling to by calling housing targets Stalinist, right? This is the Theresa Villiers amendment all over again, right? This is ensuring that local communities can block housing. All this is going to mean is exactly what we have right now, where every single inner city place gets huge amounts of housing construction because all that they want to do, all the people who live there want to do is drive down rental prices. That's all they care about. They don't care how much it affects the community or anything like that by having people crowded into smaller and smaller spaces with higher and higher and higher rises or whatever, how that deals with the local economy, because they just need to ensure that there's a massive supply of renting to try and drive prices down. And people in rural areas will always vote against it because they want to keep their owned house prices high. And we will continue to see that divide in house building between rural communities and city communities going wider still, because that's in the interest of those individual communities. Is it the interest in the country as a whole? No, but it's going to require some centralised power from Westminster to mandate that shit happens. So that's what Keith is trying to do with what he's saying here, which is sad, because the idea of putting more power into direct democracy is a good thing, right? Do you know? I don't know if you know much about the 5-star movement in Italy.
I'm vaguely aware of it, but I don't know details.
But I mean, I think they're a really great party. If I lived in Italy, I would vote for the 5-star movement.
Right.
They have some iffy views on immigration, but they're really good views on direct democracy, prioritizing social justice, and a green economy, and increasing our welfare payments and stuff like that. Right? They're a proper kind of public investment style party.
Right.
But one of their core founding principles is direct democracy, having more people who get a say in the way in which the rules are created and how laws get established and the kind of policies that get seen in the country.
Pretty based, yeah.
And they're really good, and I think direct democracy is a really good. If you're a leftist, surely you should be in favour of direct democracy. Give people more control over their lives, right? But when it comes to something like housing, that's something that does need to be done from the top down.
Well, I mean that's the thing. I'm in favour of direct democracy when it's possible, but obviously, like, there are going to be situations where it would be inappropriate for some people to have a say on it because they don't have any experience or knowledge of a topic.
Yeah.
And B, it's such a massive thing that local communities voting individually on things is a bit silly and overly bureaucratic. So but in general, the more power we can take from Westminster and give it, fuck it, throw it in the sea. Just whatever. Just take it from Westminster and put it anywhere. Stash it in your pockets. Stick it up your ass. Whatever. Westminster is the most corrupt place, other than maybe Washington DC, on Earth.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah, because the problem is that representative democracy from like a constituency level has led to the situation that we have now. The only reason why Theresa Villiers is trying to put forward the amendment is because she wants to win an election in her next seat, because she knows that whether or not housing developments happen in her seat is a big issue for her constituents. And that's the only reason why that particular piece of legislation is being put forward in the way that it has been. Whereas if there's direct democracy on a wide scale across the country on this specific issue, for example, if we had a referendum about building more council houses in general, it would win by like a country mile, right?
Yeah. By the way, to answer Alexia in chat, the US Congress has now reached number one. Yes.
That's how behind your chat is. Fucking hell.
I know, mental.
There are 2 steps to this. First, we will modernise central government so that it becomes dynamic, agile, strong.
Agile! It's there again.
Driven by clear, measurable objectives, national missions, a new approach to the power of government, more strategic, more relaxed about bringing the expertise.
These are just words! You're just saying words, Keith.
Yeah. It's just management speak nonsense.
Yeah.
We're going to streamline and efficiency and
dynamism
agile.
does mean enablement, and enablement conversely also means dynamism. I think you'll find that if you look at this. It's pathetic.
And union, town and city, and using that partnership to drive our country forward. We will announce these missions in the coming weeks. Our manifesto will then be built around them, and they will be the driving force of the next Labour government.
Right, okay, so we've got agile and dynamic and innovative. Right, brilliant. So we have a bunch of words about what the next Labour government will be. Right, okay, brilliant. Well, I'm going to start the No Justice Party, and we're going to be fucking incredible, right? That's what we're going to be. And I think everyone will vote for us in the next election off the back of my manifesto promise of being incredible.
Well, exactly. Well, I think he'll probably beat me because I was just going to have the Kevin Party, which was just going to be good.
Good,
not incredible, just good. Okay.
Yeah.
Like what I'm hoping is that people will think of my plan is more realistic. Because you're out there saying incredible. I'm just saying good. I reckon I can deliver good.
Okay.
So.
But apparently that's not how we do politics nowadays. Just say words.
Yeah. Just streamline and efficient agileness. That will be Labour government, people. Yay. Vote for Kang.
They will push us on to a better future, a decade of national renewal. But let me be clear, none of this should be taken as code for Labour getting its big government chequebook out. Of
Here
course
we
investment
go.
is required. I can see the damage the Tories have done to our public services as plainly as anyone else. But we won't be able to spend our way out of their mess. It's not as simple as that. Let me give you an example of our different approach. You start with a mission, a plan for 100% clean power generation by 2030. That mission builds on an opportunity that clean British energy is 9 times cheaper than imported fossil fuels. It's backed by investment, public and private, in wind, solar, nuclear, hydrogen, green steel and carbon capture. It's galvanised by reform, by Great British Energy, a newly publicly owned company that will take this opportunity and turn it into good, secure, well-paid British jobs. And it's driven by speed and a long-term vision that doesn't back down when the going gets tough, when vested interests take you on over planning or trying to hold on to fossil fuels. Because if you take action early, if we did this now, then businesses and working people get cheaper bills forever. Our country gets energy independence from tyrants like Putin forever. And we can give every community a shot at the green jobs of the future. That's just one example, one mission. But it shows our recipe for taking on sticking plaster politics. It's new technology, unleashed by private investment and private enterprise, tackling a huge...
Oh, you fucking dolt. Just, it's difficult. It's difficult to do any analysis on this because it's A, as we've discussed, it's largely pablum, and B, it's just sort of right-wing pandering. That's all it is. It's fucking sad.
Yeah, but the thing, the sad part as well is that all this GB Energy stuff is just a massive fucking lie. Like,
Yep.
they're not like they initially released it as an energy generator, and then literally every single brief or piece of information that they've put out about it after that has just said it's an investment vehicle to unlock green energy market investments by creating public-private partnerships. I'm like, this isn't a publicly owned energy generation company, Keir. That's not what it is. It's not what the original brief said it would be. All it is just a fucking slush fund to throw at startups. That's all it is, and all it is going to be. Which is
just an
yeah.
NFT. Fucker.
Might as well be. Might as well be.
Yeah.
challenge, and then providing a new foundation for long-term prosperity, which crucially communities can build on themselves. And this is the second of our 2 steps, giving communities the chance to control their economic destiny. The argument is devastatingly simple.
Why, look, sorry to keep harking back to Twitch's problems tonight. I love the fact that in my chat people are now saying, can you post a link to No Justice's YouTube stream so we can go there instead, which is delightful. So people, my own mods, are now giving people a link to somebody else's stream so they can leave mine.
I mean, but people who are doing that, make sure you still, if you are going to do that, make sure you have Kevin's stream open so that people are actually, your view count is still counting for Kevin, right? And still type in chat whilst you're listening in. Then the very least, you're getting the sound coming out of my YouTube whilst having Kevin's chat open.
Exactly.
Yeah, like,
I'm
I'm not going to shill
Look,
myself at the expense of my co-host.
You can, and that's absolutely fine. Yeah, the chat is working fine. It's just for some reason the stream isn't working.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you are going to come over to my YouTube channel, please consider subscribing. You don't need to give me money. Just subscribe and like the stream.
No, give money as well, dickheads.
I mean, it's only 99p. Come on, you can if you can sub to on Twitch for $3.99, you can. I think you can spare 99p for YouTube membership.
Exactly.
Hey, something's not wrong with the stream. It's not heavily interrupted in 5 minutes behind.
True.
And a huge power shift out of Westminster can transform our economy, our politics, and our democracy. I'll go back to Brexit. Yes, a whole host of issues were on that ballot paper. But as I went around the country campaigning for Remain, I couldn't disagree with the basic case so many Leave voters made to me. People who wanted public services they could rely on, high streets they could be proud of, opportunities for the next generation, and all of this in their town or their city. It was the same in the Scottish referendum in 2014. Many of those who voted yes did so for similar reasons. And it's not an unreasonable
No,
demand.
they voted yes
It's
because
not unreasonable for us
they
to recognise
wanted to
the
ensure that they
desire
weren't
of
governed
communities.
by a fucking Conservative Party that held completely opposite viewpoints to them, right? The big gain in the SNP, was at the height of David Cameron's austerity, right?
Yeah.
They oppose the kind of politics, Keith, that you're espousing right now. That's why they voted yes.
Well, exactly, and not just that, but the Westminster parties are so disliked north of the border, so to speak, that even the multiple term SNP government, which lost seats and now is in coalition with the Greens in the Scottish Parliament,
Holyrood.
will still absolutely clean up at the general election. Because
100%.
because the other option is the Westminster parties, who are fucking shit.
And it's interesting
And
how,
are hated by the people of Scotland.
and it's interesting how Keith will continue talking about, we're going to devolve things down to local communities, give local community decisions, unless that decision is, do we leave the union or not? In which case, he's going to not give them the referendum that they're asking for.
Yeah. So good luck getting those SNP votes you might need. You dickhead.
Exactly.
To stand on their own feet. It's what take back control meant. The control people want is control over their lives and their communities.
No, they just wanted fewer brown people. That's what they actually meant by take back control. Take back our country from the brown people. It might sound hyperbolic or whatever, but essentially Brexit can be boiled down to fuck Johnny Foreigner. That's why they voted the way they did.
I mean, they were definitely kind of led there by a lot of propaganda as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's always reasons why people believe these things. No one's born like
fully
a racist
manufactured, right?
Yeah.
Also, by the way, people watching you on YouTube, if you click on where the subscription thing is, even if you don't want to pay for a membership, there's a bunch of gifted memberships in the YouTube chat that just never got claimed. So if you make sure you turn on receipt of membership gifts, you might just get randomly gifted one.
Or just give money, you cheap bastards. How many plans?
But there's no one's claim. There's loads of gifted subs available, and no one's claiming.
Go and steal yourself a sub.
So we will embrace the take back control message, but we'll turn it from a slogan into a
Ripshot,
solution,
I think that is
from a catchphrase into change.
The Google Meets encoder.
Devolve new powers over employment support, transport, energy, climate change, housing, culture, childcare provision, and how councils run their finances. And we'll give communities a new right to request powers which go beyond even that.
What do you mean, how councils run their... But what does that mean exactly? Because don't councils already do that? Look, they don't... Obviously, the block grant comes from national government and all the rest of it. But how they get spent is determined by the councils, and you elect them on that basis.
Yes.
So you're not really doing a lot there, Keith.
No, quite. And then he says we're going to give them more power. Okay, right. That's not our actual policy, though. That's just saying, we're going to do it again. We're just going to give them good things.
My pause game is on control because that looks like. I mean, he's kind of a pop. He's kind of a bit, he looks like.
He looks like Wallace.
A little bit.
Oh, Robert, we forgot the crackers.
No, he's talking to white people. What are you talking about? Hey-o!
Lol.
All this will be in a new Take Back Control bill, a centrepiece of our first King's Speech. That bill will deliver on the demands for
He's not referring to the film
approach
there.
to politics and democracy, a new approach to growth and our economy.
Hired some seals for the afternoon, I think.
Quiet.
"2022 killed the Tory idea that it's only those at the top who grow our economy. 2023 will be the year Labour shows..."
To be fair, 1982 fucking conclusively did that as well, and 92 and 2002.
A new plan for growth. The year when we accept that if the South East races ahead, redistribution can't be the one-word plan for the rest of Britain. That was also part of the Brexit moment. Working people want their town or city to prosper by standing on their own feet. They want growth from the grassroots, to create wealth on their terms and in their way. So let me spell it out. No more shortcuts. Strong, dynamic government is necessary, but it's not sufficient. Communities need strong public services, but that's not enough on its own. For national renewal, there is no substitute for a robust private sector creating wealth in every community. You can see this in the precision engineers and life scientists in Glasgow, the video game visionaries in Dundee, the cyber security firms of the valleys in South Wales, the hydrogen corridor in Teesside, nano
Literally just
manufacturing.
naming parts of the country.
Just parts of the country, and like it's just sort of Mad Libs. Insert name of place and industry.
Yeah,
Okay.
did they get literally? It's like, did they get the
The
bit
cheese
like-
makers of Leicester, the heart surgeons of Bristol?
Did they get the Will I Am from the Black Eyed? Sorry, to give him his correct title, Will Je Suis from the Black Eyed Peas. Did they what's it? Remember how it was in the lyrics in "I Got a Feeling" where they just start reeling off days of the week. I feel like that's
Monday,
just like
Tuesday,
Wednesday, and Thursday.
Also, Thursday's a terrible day to party on. Shut up. Will I Am, dickhead. Also, is it
just sweet?
Will just sweet. Is the Twitch chat now broken, or is nobody talking anymore? Is everyone just left? Or is the Twitch chat actually broke? I don't know, because nothing's happening now.
I have no idea. No one's chatting in my Twitch chat either.
So it's probably broken. Brilliant.
Yeah, the whole thing's just on the blink.
Northern Ireland, ceramics in North Staffordshire, fuel cells in the West Midlands, robotics in Manchester.
He is. He's literally just doing it. He's just doing, fucking chair makers of Northampton. Like, it's just name a place and an industry.
Yeah, the Lego shop in Newcastle.
Yes. Let's go.
My mate Kev, who runs a dodgy business selling car stereos out the back of his van in Dulwich.
Yes.
Also, I think people have found
turbocharge
my
this potential.
membership gifting bit.
But Westminster can't be down.
Yes. I knew my people were cheap bastards. Go for it, kids.
That's fine. As long as people take them, because as long as people have the memberships, it boosts my stuff in the algorithm. Plus,
Exactly. Now I'm only playing.
them claiming the gift also boosts the stream in the algorithm as well.
Yeah.
So.
Also, I am only joking. It's not cheap. You by all means go and do it. Go and help and get yourself a free membership. We're listening on YouTube, but we've still got the stream open, so you get the views. Thank you, and thank you, Robo Gaming, for joining for subscribing to my YouTube, which I forgot I still had that alert on. And every time it happened, I forget to turn it down, so my normal alerts happen, and that's fine. And then someone subscribes to my YouTube while I'm broadcasting on Twitch, and it blows my fucking head off. So that's always good. The hat makers of Luton, true. I mean, that is actually the thing that Luton was known for. Yeah.
I mean, you said chair making. I'm originally from High Wycombe, which is the chair making capital of the UK.
True. Yeah. The gay people of Brighton. That's not really an industry as such, but you get the idea.
It can only do it with communities. That's why Labour will give them the trust, the power, and the control.
I have the
Won't
power.
accept decline. Won't write our country off. Won't leave Britain in a brace position, buffeted from crisis to crisis, holding on, trying to make it through. That's no way to live, and it's no way to run a country. So this year, in place of sticking plaster politics, we'll set out the case for change, the case for a new Britain, the case for hope, that the country will get better, that politics can be a force for good, that Britain can be run in the interests of working people. We can feel the public looking at us again, and we won't let up. We'll work every day to earn their trust, show them a new way of governing, and lead them to the fairer, greener, more dynamic Britain where aspiration is rewarded, working people succeed, communities control their own destiny, and where politics doesn't hide from the big challenges that face our children. Thank you very much.
Okay, so actual policy prescriptions, 0. Fewer than Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, at least Sunak was saying, I will force you to do arithmetic until you're 27.
Yeah, we had that, and we had 20,000 police officers.
20,000 police officers.
I mean, Rishi Sunak gave us a number of police officers. Like,
Yeah,
Keir Starmer just said lots of doctors.
Yeah, more doctors.
More. Yeah, more. I
Yeah.
mean, to be fair, neither of them are actually real policies because you need to tell us how you're going to do it at the end of the day, right? Neither of them are actually concrete.
True.
The one concrete policy we've had in the last 3 hours has been kids do maths. That's it. Our political class
Yeah.
are pathetic.
Yeah. Again, just to update, he's lost his 10th ballot now. That's 10.
Incredible.
Absolutely amazing. It's not quite done yet, but 18 other, so he's lost. It's over. Amazing shit. So anyway, back to our broken democracy, I guess.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If you ever find yourself whooping at a Keir Starmer speech, you need to have a long look in the mirror about the person you've become, because you failed at life if you're whooping at this man's nonsense, or you're really high. I'll give you a pass if you're off your tits, you know.
Thank you.
Why are you whooping? You said nothing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We're now going to take some questions from the media, and I want to get through quite a few of these, so can I encourage all our colleagues from the media just to ask one question rather than the growing habit of 2 or 3 or 4. So I think we're going to start with Chris Mason from the BBC. Chris.
Thank you, Chris Mason, BBC News. You said today that Labour won't be getting its big government chequebook out. Will you match the Conservative spending limits going into the election?
Well, first, Chris, that commitment in relation to the chequebook is because we know that we're going to inherit a badly damaged economy and a badly damaged country, and therefore we have to be absolutely clear that we can't just spend our way out of that mess. Obviously, we'll set out our case as we go into the election, and we will already set out our fiscal rules in terms of spending for day-to-day, only borrowing to invest, and getting debt down.
The crazy part as well is that
economy.
they are
Those
trying
the
to tell
rules
us that
go
this is
in
some
it.
kind of new thing that they've announced. This is literally part of both 2017 and 2019 manifestos. John McDonnell committed to a red line of only using borrowing to invest rather than for day-to-day spending. That's not a new thing that Labour have done. And given the fact that Rachel Reeves was earlier today saying that there was no costing in original manifestos, when they're now committing to the things that were being committed to by the previous manifesto. This is crazy.
Exactly. They were pre-existing anti-Semitic policies. Yeah.
But what I'm trying to set out today is a different approach, and making it absolutely clear that it's a different way of working. It's about partnership. It's about pushing power away from Westminster that matters in all of this. But after 13 years of failure on every level, we know we're going to inherit a very badly damaged economy. And therefore, that is what drives me to say we will not be getting out that big government chequebook. Everything that we say we will do will be fully costed and set out as it already has been, and we'll do that going into the election. Thank you, Chris. I've got Ali from Sky.
And the other thing as well, again, as I kept saying, right, like, is that, again, this economic orthodoxy, this Osborne-style economic orthodoxy where you can't spend your way out of recession, as it is is literally just the opposite of true. The fact that for so long, the public have kind of been conned by a political and media class who've accepted this as basic fact when it is literally the opposite of fact. Like, when you look at, for example, I think I've mentioned this before on stream, but it's worth mentioning again, that in Australia, in the wake of the global financial crisis, Kevin Rudd just gave money to people, literal stimulus checks, similar to the way Trump and Biden did, to try and get the economy moving coming out of the financial crisis. And they had the best response out of any economy in the world, basically one of the best in the world, right?
Yeah.
And that's just like, that's the blueprint for how that works. And not only did over here we not do the same thing and became economic orthodoxy to not spend money out of the recession, in Australia, Kevin Rudd then lost the election in 2013 off the back of the media saying that what he did was bad. I'm losing my fucking mind.
Yeah. That's the Murdoch media for you, I guess.
Now, you've criticised Rishi Sunak yesterday for being light on policy, but when it comes to the big issues that are impacting people right now, NHS pay, the strikes, what exactly are you going to do to help people? It's not clear what you're saying beyond saying that you would do a better job than the Tories. You say you're not willing to get your big chequebook out. But how are you going to fix those problems, help people right now? What difficult decisions are you going to be willing to make?
Well, look, Ali, I have criticised the Prime Minister. You're absolutely right. I thought his promises were weak and low ambition. Inflation's the biggest example of that. Saying you get inflation down to a rate lower than is already predicted is not a big promise to the British public. And the idea that after 13 years of failure you can come along in the 13th year and say, I've got 5 new promises, please give us one more chance, I just feel is so far removed from reality. But in relation to your question...
See, that's true. He's got a point, but like, what are you planning to do that's actually realistically any different?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And again, like, he's not made any actual promises. He's just said we're going to end sticking plaster politics and make things less Westminstery without actually explaining how he's going to do either of those things.
Yeah, true.
Question. Obviously, there are things we need to do this winter to get us through, and we've argued the case for discharging patients more quickly, virtual wards. There are many things we're making use of facilities. But what we can't do, and this is really the centrepiece of what I'm trying to say, is every year we go into an NHS crisis, it just gets worse and worse and worse, and so we're in the worst one ever now. And that's sticking plaster politics. We can do something this year to get through, but if we don't actually understand the fundamentals of change, we'll be back in the same crisis next year and the year after. And central to that is the workforce. And that's why we've said that we will have a fully funded plan to bring in, thousands and thousands more nurses, more doctors, etc., more medical staff coming into...
Well, you say a funded plan, but it's not a matter of just funds. You have to have people who want to do the thing.
Yeah.
Which, given the current climate, it is unlikely.
Especially
Why would
considering
people want to go in there?
Especially considering it's hiring, right? You need people to want to, but you need a second party on this, right? It's not like spending money on some infrastructure project when, any company that wants money will take your money off you. Whereas, when it's actually trying to hire people into an already poisoned chalice of working in an incredibly crippled NHS, for example, that's a difficult sell, right?
Exactly.
The NHS, because in the end that's the only way we're going to get out of this. That long, putting another sticking plaster on is necessary. Of course it is. It's a bit like the energy and cost of living crisis. We've got to do it for one more winter. But if we don't tackle the fundamentals, we'll be back in this cycle next year and the year after and the year after. And that's what's been one of the biggest
thing is that Keith isn't wrong
years.
here. We do need to tackle the fundamentals, otherwise we'll be here forever. But unfortunately, the fundamentals that should actually be tackled is the neoliberal economic orthodoxy, which he's already said 1,000 times he's not going to break. So we are going to be in this position in 4 years' time again, and it'll be his fault because he will have said, well, we've tried nothing and we've run out of ideas.
It is. It's the Simpsons meme. We've tried absolutely nothing and we're all out of ideas. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you, Ali. Gary.
Gary Gibbon, Channel 4 News. It doesn't sound like you do want to splash the cash. So beyond your sort of costed extra investment in things like the NHS, you are going to be looking for more from the same money, or more from less even, sometimes in public services. Can I ask you about one specific area of that? Tony Blair looked to the private sector to help with that kind of efficiency saving. Do you think there's more scope for the private sector delivering public services? Have we reached the outer limits of it? Is it sometimes what works? Could there be a whole new development in that under your premiership?
Well, Gary, thank you for that question. The way I see it is this, that if a party wins an election and sets out its stall, its programme for change, it's then got to answer the question, well, how are you going to deliver that? And there are three...
Whoa. You need to have that figured out before the election. You don't win the election and then try and come up with a plan of how to do the thing. Look, you've misunderstood the chronology on this one, I feel.
Quite.
Might be part of the problem.
No, actually, I think you'll find, Kevin, he's literally, that's exactly what he thinks he's done, right? He basically has done every single election he's ever won has been off the back of not having anything to do with what he's promised before, right? In fact, all of the sensible centrists in my TikTok comments, for example, are continually telling us he can't promise anything. And because, first of all, if he promises anything good, the Conservatives will steal it, despite them supposed to be ideologically opposed to each other. And second of all, he's only saying all of this vicious right-wing stuff so that all of the centrists will vote for him, and he'll completely spurn them when it comes to election time. Clearly, we are the political idiots by expecting there to be promises of good things going forward. He should only promise bad things, because then people who like bad things will vote for him, and if he doesn't do them, then we'll be relieved, and then but we should vote for him based off the promise of bad things happening. That's the sense that, like, if that kind of gobbledygook nonsense I just said there, that is apparently what smart politics is in the minds of the sensible centrist gang.
Yeah.
You suck it all up to the centre and try to deliver it all through the state. I don't think that works, and we won't be doing that, to be clear. The other is to say, well, we've set out what we want to achieve, but it's the market that knows best, so we'll now leave it to the market. I don't believe in that model. I don't think that's worked either. And that's why what I'm proposing today, what we put on the table, is a partnership model where, with an agile, active state working in partnership with private business, we deliver together.
Fucking agile. Agile is going to be the fucking shithouse word of 2023.
But also, just like public-private partnerships, that is literally just privatization, right? That is PFIs. Yes. That is what Blair did. That's the source of the problems that we have at the moment, having to pay extra for contracts. Because instead of doing it in-house at cost, we are outsourcing it at cost plus profit plus administrative costs of being able to do it outside of house, right? We're
plus
spending
massive
more
inflation.
money than we need to. We're spending far more than we need to already because of all of this public-private partnership shit. That's just privatization. You're saying, oh, we can't leave it up to the market. I'm like, in some ways, a market would be better, because at least there'd be competition. But there's no competition in delivering a good service if you're a public-private partnership, because you've got given your contract for the government, you've got your profit already, regardless of delivery. You've still made your money. So you have no incentive to do any good, right? Which is literally the worst of both worlds. And obviously, fully marketized is also bad, which leaves the one good option for healthcare, which is keeping it all in charge of the state. And also, all the private partnership will do is allocate like physical capacity for like beds and hospital space, and you can just build that shit, right? All of the actual staff in the private sector, they're just scalped from the NHS, right? The private sector has none of its own fucking doctors and nurses. They're all NHS staff who get pilfered whenever the private sector feel like that they have an in to be able to do things. That's why this privatization stuff from Starmer is so dangerous, because by moving more staff remit from the public sector to the private sector, all that's doing is actually moving staff out of the NHS in a current model where that's not a thing that exists at the moment. It's so dangerous, because at the end of the day, it'll get to the point at which there's so much been filtered between the two that you can't even tell the difference anymore. Whereas at the moment, there is this distinct difference in the method of employment for nurses and doctors currently.
You're not thinking in a very agile way.
No, I'm not very innovative at all, right? No. I said I'm the opposite of dynamic innovation. We know what works and is good, so let's continue to do it rather than throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. Right?
Oh, well, I don't think you're synergizing your streamlined portfolio very well at all.
Well, it's the same shit that we get with like turning public transport into anonymous pods, right? Rather than just saying trains work, let's build trains. But no,
Hyperloop. Stupid Hyperloop.
Gamer lights. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Has to be sold to Silicon Valley tech bros for it to be worthy of public investment.
No, what we need is the Cybertruck and its child hunting tactics, where it'll just kill every child on a fucking crosswalk in the entire world. That's what we need. Exploding self-driving cars. Yes.
Wonderful.
Each clear about what their role is in that partnership, and that's the way in which we deliver for the future.
Because he's not even said, he's not given any prescription
we're not going to get the big check
as to what. Oh, sorry.
But that is reform.
No, just saying. Yeah, no, I was agreeing with you. Yes.
He's given no actual prescriptions as to why this privatization partnership model is going to solve the NHS crisis. He's not told us how on earth it would solve the crisis, but because it's billed as NHS reform, everyone's just lapping up and saying, well, if it's some kind of reform, then it must be good, because we've all just agreed at some point over the past 3 years that reform is the thing that needs to happen, right? And with no evidence behind any of this shit. There's no proper thought that's gone into any of these prescriptions that have been made. Just the journalists believe it, so Keith tells the journalists what they want to hear. The journalists report it to the public, and they just nod in agreement. It's psychotic. I hate this country. It's so bad.
Yeah. Oh my god! I can't wait to see if this is true or not. But apparently, the latest leak from the autobiography of fucking Ginger Bollocks, whatever his name is, or Prince Harry, whatever, reveals that the late Queen had to quote get on her hands and knees and beg, unquote, Prince Harry not to publicly endorse former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn in the build-up
Oh,
to the
that's a joke.
2019 general election.
That's from a joke account. It's from a meme account.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh,
And funny though what it was, although what we do have actual knowledge is that he called Prince William Willie, which I think is hilarious because I have the humour of a child. But on second of all, I think what we're probably actually really learning is that for a vast proportion of the time, he was being begged by the royal family not to just tell the truth about them, right? Like
sorry, yeah, no, I should have just said that straight away. My bad. Yeah.
But
Okay.
because the crazy shit is that so much of the existence of the royal family is just shaped by the press. Mooncat has an incredible video about the way the relationship the royal family have with the press, because essentially they only ever exist as a marketing tool for the country's prestige, really. They don't exist for any other reason, because that's why everyone tells you about their tourism, despite the fact they don't contribute anything to that either. But their relationship with the press, because the press know that they're a massive money spinner. That's why the press push them really hard, right? You look at Talk TV, the segments where they talk about the royal family, like hundreds of thousands of views. One segment talking about a union dispute, like 7,000 views, right? It's big money in the papers, on YouTube, everywhere, right? And that's why it keeps going. And Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, they threaten that shit by exposing the royal family for not being perfect. And so the papers, who realise that that's their future revenue in jeopardy, have had no choice but to monster them.
Yeah. Although, did you see, talking about Talk TV, did you see Isabel Oakeshott being called a fascist?
Yeah, it's a great one now.
Delightful.
An advert for the Hitler Youth.
True.
I mean, she's very Aryan, to be fair.
Yeah, she is a bit.
Having run a public service for 5 years, I ran a public service in the criminal justice sector for 5 years. I've
Did
long
ya?
been an advocate of reform, and we have to reform our
You've kept
public
that
service,
quiet.
whether that's health or criminal justice, because the idea that simply putting more money in, which of course is needed and will bring about some improvement, won't transform our public services in the way that I think they need to deliver in the 21st century. Gary, thank you for that. Harry from ITV.
Thank you. You said you want to avoid sticking plaster politics, but sometimes immediate crises require short-term solutions. So take the strikes this week, for example. What would you actually do differently in your negotiations with the unions? You said that you would take them seriously. Well, would you ignore the NHS pay recommendation? Would you offer more than 5%? You said you won't offer 19%, but would you offer more than what's already been offered at the moment?
Look, Harry, firstly, I think it's very important in relation to industrial action to understand quite how much...
So this is him beginning to not answer the question.
Yep. They ask, please give us a proper policy prescription, and he's going to say, no, I do not want to give you a proper policy prescription.
Yep.
People are struggling to make ends meet, and why they're driven to this action, particularly the nurses. Never been on strike nationally ever before. Now, I don't want to see these strikes. I don't think there's any nurse, certainly that I've spoken to or heard of, who wants to be on strike. On the contrary, before they went on strike, in those final days, they said to the government, just come in the room with us and talk to us, and we won't go on strike. And the government refused. So I would get in the room. I would talk to them. And there's going to have to be compromise. And I also ask Harry this. The government hasn't got a strategy. What's it going to do? Will it go in the room in a few weeks' time and reach an agreement that they could have reached before the strike started, and then watch everything that's happened in the last few weeks happen, all that distress to people, by doing agreements sometime down the line in a few weeks? Is that their strategy? Or will they just slug it out month after month after month in a war with our nurses? I think we're entitled to say they clearly have got no strategy whatsoever for dealing with these strikes, particularly the nurses' strikes. Thank you, Harry. And Lucy from Time.
Okay, so he's not told us how much money he would give them. He has said that he would at least negotiate, but like of every government who would negotiate who isn't this specific government right now, right?
Yeah.
As Ian Hislop was saying nicely on Joe policy, the government have kind of forgotten how industrial disputes work, in that two parties turn up and negotiate, and not one party turns up to negotiate and the other get indemnified by the state and or just ignore it, right?
Yeah.
Like...
I mean, it essentially amounts to strike breaking, because the whole point is you're supposed to some extent, cause problems for the employer. But if they're just getting financially bailed out by the state anyway, you're essentially funding one side of a dispute.
It's incredible that the rail strikes have had as much support as they have done and continue to have done so as well, because it is just now between the unions and the public, right? The public are the only people inconvenienced by these strikes now. The only people inconvenienced are the public, because the companies don't care about it anymore, and they are managing through the force of Mick Lynch will alone to have positive coverage and positive viewpoints from the public, despite the fact that the only people being that's where the conflict line lies, because of the government's intervention.
Hi, Lucy Fisher from Times Radio. We know that the government are shortly expected to bring forward anti-strike legislation. You've made clear that you think those laws are wrong. Will you commit to repealing them if Labour come into government? And do you think any new measures are needed to ensure minimum service levels for the public in crucial sectors like health and rail?
Lucy, look, firstly, frankly, the government is all over the show on this. Every day there's a different briefing as to whether there's going to be legislation, what's going to be in it, when it's going to come. And I think there's a reason for that, and that's because I don't think this legislation is going to work. And I'm pretty sure they've had an assessment that tells them that it's likely to make a bad situation worse. And so,
and it's going to be obviously illegal. It's obviously completely immoral as well, but more than that, on a practical level, if it gets challenged in the courts, it will be overturned, and they'll eventually work its way up to the Supreme Court, who will say, well, obviously, these are not slaves. You can't make them go to work. Shut the fuck up.
No, quite. Actually, someone in my chat's pointed out as well that they're probably waiting for it to roll over to the next financial year. So it's like, well, the inflation's gone down, so no pay rise for you, despite the fact that, there's the whole 11% from the previous financial year that has not been remunerated for.
Yep.
Answer to your question, obviously, we'll look at what they bring forward, but if it's further restrictions, then we will repeal it. And the reason for that is I do not think that legislation is the way that you bring an end to industrial disputes. You have to get in the room and compromise. You can't legislate your way out of 13 years of failure. So, say the government's all over the show. Will we repeal it? Yes, we will. Thank you, Lucy. Kieran from The Guardian.
Kieran Stacey from The Guardian. Hi. You talk about nurses. At the moment, the government appears to be budgeting for a 2% pay rise for nurses in 2023-2024. You said 19% is too much. Will you at least say that 2% is too little, if that is what ends up being the offer?
Well, Kieran, let's wait and see what the government actually brings forward.
Oh, for fuck's sake, answer a question.
Do you remember did you watch the H-Bomber Guy video about Tommy Tallarico?
Yes.
On the Roblox oof. Do you remember in the Tommy Tallarico, like a live stream he did, where he would never, ever, ever say exactly how much he was offered by Roblox for the oof sound?
For the oof, yeah.
So they kept asking him, but he would tell them in the form of a riddle. Right? This is what Keith is doing right now.
Yeah.
About nurses' pay.
Yeah, Keith Tallarico.
The thing is, everyone wants the nurses to get a pay rise. Like, literally, the country is united in our desire to see the nurses get a pay rise. We all love nurses. We all want them to get pay rises, right? You can literally just say, I will give them an 11% pay rise. I will negotiate them from 19% down to 11%. That's the pay rise that they would get if I was in power right now. Because by the time that Labour are in power, they don't have to care about it, because the inflationary pay rise will be different in 2024 or whenever it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, they can literally just say, because they'd have no need to ever honour it. If we were in government right now, we'd give 11%, we'd match inflation. They could just say that.
We could.
And they would garner them loads of support. And they can't even say that. It's pathetic. It's completely pathetic.
There's been a lot of speculation. And I'm not going to stand here before the start of those negotiations and say what the right percentage is. Neither the health service nor the unions would expect me to do that. But what I do expect is the government to go into the room and compromise and talk to the nurses. All they're asking is for the government to get in the room. I think many people watching this, or just looking on in politics, and seeing nurses on strike for the first time, would stand or watch in disbelief. All the nurses are saying is, come into the room and talk to us, and we won't be on strike. And the government won't do it. And I think that's the central reason that we're stuck in this situation. Henry, Times.
Hi, Henry Zevin from The Times. If you are restraining spending now, no longer getting out the big government checkbook, do you still stand by the policy of abolishing university tuition fees?
Well, look, I mean, university tuition fees are not working well. They burden young people going forward. Obviously, we've got a number of propositions in relation to those fees that we will put forward as we go into the election. But, I have to be honest about it. The damage that's been done to our economy means that we are going to have to, and we know we will, cost everything as we go into that election. And we will do that with discipline as we've done it so far. So I'm not going to spell out our manifesto in advance, Henry. You know I won't do that. You don't expect me to do that. But I can say that every commitment we made will be absolutely fully funded. That's a cast iron guarantee as we go into that election. Jack from The Sun.
Thank you. Keir Starmer, you used your New Year's message to try and champion Brexit voters like never before, even announcing a Take Back Control bill. Many of them will remember you advocating for a second referendum. Do you now regret that, and why should they now believe you?
Well, Jack, even in those turbulent years, 2016 to 2019, I was always making the argument that there was always something very important sitting behind that Leave vote. That phrase, take back control, was really powerful. It was like a Heineken phrase.
Again, it's not answering the question.
The more they ask themselves, do I have enough control? The more they answer that question, no. And if you can't make ends meet in your family, you don't have control. If you don't have a secure job, you don't have control. If you feel you can't go out after dark because of antisocial behaviour, you don't have control. And I've always accepted that argument. That's why I said in my speech that you can't deny the basic arguments being made. And I think it's time for us to embrace it. We're now many years on from that referendum, and that change has never happened. And we intend, as I say, to turn that slogan into a solution and to bring forward that bill, the Take Back Control bill, to deliver it in action. Thank you, Jack. Lizzie from the Mirror.
Hi, Keir. Mark Drakeford recently said that Welsh Labour was readying for a snap election because he believes that the government could be on the brink of collapse. Are you doing the same?
Lizzie, in the autumn, put our party on an election footing. So I reorganised our teams. I went through everything we needed to do to be election ready because back then I thought the government could fall at any time. And we need to be ready if it falls at any time. And I've always seen my task as Labour leader. I started in April 2020. The Labour Party was flat down on the floor. My job was to change the Labour Party, to recognise if you lose that badly, you don't look at the electorate and say, what were you doing? You change your party. To demonstrate that the government was unfit to govern, and then to lay out the alternative case. And we've been sticking to those paths, and we are now ready for
I
an
would
election,
really hate to
and
be
I put
the person who created the policy that turned people away from my party at the election that I'm now saying we should have changed from. I'd really hate to be that exact person who championed a stupid policy on Brexit. I really that would it would be really bad. Say, for example, if you were the party trying to market yourself as being a different party, to be led by the person who was the architect of the policy that made people not vote for you at the last election.
Well, I'm just
Wouldn't
glad
that
they
be
didn't. It would be very weird to have the former shadow Brexit minister as the leader now, turning his back on his own policy that was disastrous. Yeah.
on that basis some time ago. I mean, as to when the election will be, your guess is as good as mine. I think it should be straight away. I think after 13 years of failure, 13 years of failure on our economy, growing the economy has been far, far too slow over the last 13 years. Our public services are on their knees. They've done huge damage last autumn to our economy. And I think people are entitled to say we don't want any more of this. We should have a general election as soon as possible. Thank you, Lizzie. Camilla from The Telegraph. Camilla.
Thank you. You're
Camilla from The Telegraph.
It's Camilla Tominey, right?
Yeah.
giving a speech in the same venue as the Prime Minister did yesterday. You're both, I know you
We booked it first, that's all I'm saying. But it's a great venue.
You're both promising competence, economic stability and optimism. You both appear to be battling for the centre ground. How can you explain to voters what is the real difference between the two of you?
Oh, just look at the last 13 years. How can you seriously come along?
I mean, like literally, the right wingers are the ones saying this because all the leftoids, all the liberals, I guess, will literally just refuse to come out and say it because they don't want to look like they're criticising the great god Keith himself, right?
Yeah.
And they're right. Like Tom Harwood was saying, we've gone from having discussions about macroeconomic policy to whether or not they're going to have taxes for non-doms. Like, obviously, I want non-doms to get taxed, right? And I want private schools to get taxed. But like, that is literally the entirety of the policy differences between these two parties, and they're just like,
not true. Rishi was wearing a suit jacket.
True.
So
true. And
I don't know what else difference you need, really.
And while Keith was being agile and dynamic, whereas Rishi was being agile and innovative. So really, we're just two different. It's two completely opposite ends of the spectrum. If we really think
Exactly. I mean, I don't know that you can get more different than that.
Exactly, it's the hallmark of difference. But like, it's like a surreal idea where the only people who actually are telling us that there's a difference between these parties are the actual right-wing pundits. A real worst person you know. That's something you agree with moment.
True.
Of low growth, 13 years of public services being pushed to their knees, 13 years of
Pushed to their
crushing
knees.
aspirations of
That's not a
many people
phrase.
across the country. Nobody really disputes that our country is in a real state, that it's in a real mess. To come along 13 years along the line and say, well, I mean, the Prime Minister yesterday, it was almost as if he'd sort of suddenly arrived from the moon. I was looking around saying, everything's busted, nothing working. There was a real commentary thing. There's a bit in his speech where he says, NHS not working, education not working, economy not working. Yeah, and you've been in power for 13 years.
Do you remember how as well when we were watching?
So that is the fundamental decision. No good coming along and making 5 bland promises.
It was us. I think it was us two watching another speech where Keith was doing, his speech that he did ages ago, where he said exactly the same line of, "Oh, they've just come down from the moon." I'm like, have your spin doctors not been able to come up with any new idioms for you to say in your speeches in 6 fucking months, Keith?
They've come straight from the planet Mars. It's a twist on a theme, sure, but it's different.
Yeah.
And saying, well, just give us another chance. I'm sorry about the last 13 years. That's just not going to wash with the British public. Thank you, Camilla. David from the Mail.
Thanks very much. Your speech didn't mention immigration, particularly the issue of small boats, which the PM...
Oh, Jesus Christ. Is it, the Daily Mail, straight in there with the immigration shit. What a surprise.
Made a cast iron pledge on yesterday. Was it absent from your speech?
What did he make a cast iron? He said, we're going to stop the boats. That's what did you mean? Do you know what cast iron is?
Well, this is literally the level how pathetic our journalists are, right?
He gave a plasticine pledge that can be moulded into anything.
Yeah, literally, it was literally a fucking like
ridiculous.
A pledge made out of kinetic sand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because you don't have a plan, and if you do have a plan, what is it?
Well, David, we do have a plan, and we've set it out before many, many times. And it's a 5-point plan, but the 2 most important, as far as I'm concerned, are, firstly, I don't want anybody crossing the channel in that way. Nobody should want that, anybody making that dangerous journey. The way to deal with that, in my view, is to tackle the criminal gangs upstream. Criminal gangs are running this. They're running people to the border in North France. And we have to tackle them at source. Now, when I was Director of Public Prosecutions, we ran joint, cross-nation teams to deal with transport of drugs and guns across borders. We can do it in relation to the trafficking of people and the movement of people across borders. We can go after...
Slightly different. You can't really smuggle a Somalian up your arsehole, It's a different thing. No. In a condom or otherwise,
No.
To those gangs and get them at source. That's the first thing. The second thing, David, is this. The appalling delay in processing asylum applications is at the heart of this. 4% of those that crossed the channel in small boats in 2021 have had their asylum claims processed. 4%.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
When I first saw that figure, I couldn't believe it. And that is the state of our government and its ability to grit this has to be measured against their failure to tackle it at source and their absolute failure with asylum applications. Thank you, David. And then Chloe from the Eye.
To be fair to Keith, he's not been the most draconian that he could be there. And he has pointed out 2 correct things, which is breaking the gangs and also an actual concrete, I guess not really a concrete policy, is it? To say that you're going to speed up the asylum process. I guess it's close to a policy. I'll give him half a point. I guess putting more money into it would help. So, sure, I guess.
Yeah, but he's not going to get the magic checkbook or whatever the fuck that thing was.
I mean, true. Yeah. I mean, he's not. Yeah, we've already been promised that we're not going to get the checkbook out, so I guess that's probably pretty moot now at the end, anyway. But he's missing the key issue of how to break the gangs, right? Do you know how to break the? It's really weird secret. This, right? If gangs are relying on there being no legal routes to be able to smuggle people into the country, you open the legal fucking routes.
Yeah, but yeah, basically, yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why Ukrainians can apply for visas online, get the visas, and then get the Eurostar. Yet people fleeing Ethiopia, people fleeing Afghanistan and Syria, I think they're on separate lists as well. But fleeing, Eritrea,
brown people countries,
people countries, right?
Yeah.
Why they have no legal routes and have to get the small boats across the channel?
Well, that's because, because if there was white people drowning in the channel, they'd do something about it.
True.
but it's just brown people. So I mean, it's just going to save them on having to fly them to Rwanda. So
Yeah, they save loads of money by flying up. You know. I mean, to be
this
fair, Keith has
country's
said
so racist. It's unbelievable.
I mean, Keith has said he'd scrap Rwanda, which is, I guess, is like the absolute
Well,
bare fucking minimum.
Let's clarify there. Not he won't scrap the country or Rwanda, because that's not really in his power to do. He's going to scrap the plan to send people to Rwanda.
To Rwanda, yeah.
Yeah. I
By
mean,
the way,
that's like some old school colonial shit. We're going to scrap Rwanda. We're just
best to watch on YouTube.
We're going to amalgamate it with Burundi and Uganda to make one country.
True. And we
Then
can't.
we'll save on administration and overheads.
I mean, we're going to force it. We're going to forcibly merge them with. We're going to forcibly merge them with Burundi and the Democratic Republic of Congo, and then the Kivu conflict will just spread to the entire region.
Fuck it, why not? Let's go.
Do it. Third Congo War. Let's go. Speedrun it.
Exactly. Well, the first two were such raving successes.
Quite. And to add extra context, during the first Congo War, current Prime Minister of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, who was at the time the head of the RPF's military, was actually someone who committed war crimes by massacring refugees in eastern Congo, which is the person who we're sending refugees to. Little tidbit of information.
Sounds like a safe pair of hands to send the most vulnerable people in the world to. Yeah, awesome. Talking about vulnerable people, they're going for an 11th vote.
I can't believe it.
It's fucking mental. It's just Groundhog Day shit.
They should at the start of every vote. They should play "I Got You, Babe" at the start.
Oh yeah, just to get the thing going. Yeah. He has to go through the same dozen tasks every day. Yeah. Saves the kid falling out of the tree and all of that. Yeah.
Take back control. Lisa Nandy told the Eye earlier this week that Labour is looking to align with EU laws in more areas than just security and veterinary standards. When are we going to get the full details of this proposed new relationship? And does this mean that you're prepared to...
In about 4 years, when he's Prime Minister, maybe.
Yeah.
Give up UK sovereignty in some areas in order to achieve those closer economic ties?
Well, Chloe, I set out in a speech I gave at the Irish Embassy last year, the sort of 5 principles that we would apply in terms of improving our relationship with the EU. I don't think anybody now seriously argues that this so-called oven-ready deal is actually working for anyone. And so, of course, we have to address that. And I'll set that out in more detail. But...
Well, the oven-ready deal was alive from the beginning because he already said he was going to scrap parts of it before the election even happened. Which, if we had a responsible journalist class, would have been brought to the fore during that general election and would have been questioned as to why he's a lying piece of shit. But we don't, and so it wasn't.
The 5 principles that'll be based on have already been set out. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you all for coming this morning. I'm really sorry to those of you that had to stand who probably wanted me to give shorter answers just now. Happy New Year. Thank you very much.
Literally go fuck yourself. Yeah, that was painful.
So out of what we've been going for about 3.5 hours, right? We watched 2 speeches, 2 rounds of questioning, and we have like 3 entire policies. Brilliant.
And even they are relatively vague, and we have no way of knowing what the plan is in terms of implementation.
Correct. The only one where we have a proper plan for implementation was Rishi Sunak's desire to get 17 and 18-year-olds learning about maths. Like that's the only thing we got.
The dumb policy that everyone agrees is dumb and unnecessary. That's the one where they've got a cast iron plan to do a thing.
Yep.
Genius.
Brilliant.
This is the cream of the crop that have risen to the top. They don't eat pigs because pigs are cops. I've gone too far with the lyrics there. But this is the cream of the crop of the British political establishment. This is the best they can do.
Yep. This is it. This is. I mean, this is literally like the absolute zenith of our political class.
Yeah, and it's the absolute nadir of British existence, I feel.
I mean, obviously true it is. I mean, we literally... Yeah. I don't know how we can sink any lower than this as a country. I mean, I guess we could we should fucking, I don't know, invade Brunei for no reason. I mean, I guess maybe if we toppled the monarchy, like maybe that'd be better for the people of Brunei. I don't know. Like,
well, the only
single good interventionism. I don't know.
True. Well, yeah, exactly. Maybe they'll hold a concert for us. Who knows? Yeah, the only way we're going to sink any further is when the ice caps melt and Kent disappears or something, and that's about it.
I mean,
That's
to be
literally
fair,
it. Yeah.
to be fair, I fucking if Kent disappears, brilliant, love it,
Yeah. Well, I live on one of the highest bits of England, so I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Look,
love
my
it.
property prices are going to go through the roof.
I mean, to be fair, the property
Watch how
market.
quickly. Watch how quickly Birmingham becomes gentrified as fuck as soon as that starts happening. There's no way I can afford to fucking live here anymore. Anyway, yeah.
Oh, anyway, that was
In the when we're
excruciating.
all eating pineapple in the tropical paradise of the West Midlands.
You know,
Anyway.
Manchester will still be raining. I bet it.
Almost certainly, yes. Yeah.
Like in those cartoons where someone's sad and a little rain cloud appears on top of them. Just that, but just specifically for the Greater Manchester area.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'm okay with that. That's good. It's fine. Apologies to As Friends Rust if you're in chat, who is a proud Mancunian, but never mind. Yes.
I lived in Manchester for 7 years or something. But like, I'm incredible. Love the city, but it does rain a lot.
Oh, well, it's Britain. Yeah, everywhere rains a lot, basically. Anyway, on that slightly damp bombshell. Well, firstly, thank you for coming on.
Likewise.
New show, same old shit. No, new year, same old shit. I guess.
Quite. Yeah.
Oh God. I mean, it's so pointless asking this because who knows? But like, what are your predictions for 2023 in terms of British politics? I mean, how bad can it get?
I actually think things won't change very much. I actually think we're gonna have a year of just nothing much happening. Unless actually, to be fair, well, we're still waiting on the Parliamentary Standards Committee and Boris Johnson, right?
Yes, we are.
So
that could be interesting, yeah.
We're still in a position where Boris Johnson might not be an MP by this time next year.
Well, he said that he will fight. Although, I mean, what he says doesn't really matter because he's a lying bastard. But he said he will fight his seat in North Ruislip. Yeah,
South Ruislip.
South Ruislip. Apologies to the people of North Ruislip who are just besmirched by suggesting. Yeah. He said he's going to fight that seat, which means he's going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, either way, he'll be kicked out or voted out, or will stand down probably or something, and go and earn lots of money. By the way, did you see he was earning tens of thousands of pounds? Who's doing that? Who's paying money to listen to this dickhead talk?
I have no idea. It's incredible. After the man, like, literally just admitted that and was publicly exposed as having knowingly promoted like a sex pest. For any moneyed institution to want to contribute to his lifestyle, it's just incredible to me. Like it's just the proof that like Boris Johnson and Donald Trump are just proof that cancel culture does not exist, right? You can be in the case of Boris Johnson, you can be a philandering, openly homophobic, anti-Semitic, like classist buffoon who promotes sexual assaulters and gives money to his friends and cheats on his wife, and still be incredibly popular. And Donald Trump can literally be like a serial rapist, right?
Yeah.
And
friend of Jeffrey Epstein.
Friend of Jeffrey Epstein, for example, openly courting the votes of white nationalists, literally was endorsed by David fucking Duke. And no, still like the moment where he mocked the disabled reporter. Why was that not the end of it? Right?
Yeah, I guess because they're like bigoted idiots. So like he was attacking disabled people, so that's like a positive for those evil fucks, I guess.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. Well, you know what? I'll take a quiet year where not a lot happens.
I mean, if Boris Johnson gets through his Parliamentary Standards Committee thing, and stays an MP, and if in 6 months' time the Tories are still hovering between late teens and early 20s in the polls, I think there'll be another leadership challenge, but only on those exact caveats, because loads of MPs what Boris Johnson. I mean, there's the internal kind of party squabble in the Tories at the moment, because there's this campaign for conservative internal democracy, which actually I think that a lot of their premises are quite good, and that they want to ensure that there's always a members' vote on who's going to be leader of the party. They want essentially the party to be more democratic in the way that the left and
Yeah.
the Labour Party wanted them to be, which I think is a good thing, right? I think
Yeah.
internal party, they may be bellends, but I believe that democracy is good and they should be able to fulfil that wish, right? And
Yes.
and they really, really want Boris Johnson to be the leader of the party because they believe he's their kind of electoral silver bullet, because he speaks to a bunch of people who wouldn't vote Tory otherwise, which we see from 2019, for example.
Yeah.
Interestingly, they are massively behind the most left-wing Tory Prime Minister that we've had in the last 13 years, which is incredible for me to say. But it is true that Boris Johnson's more left-wing than all of the other ones combined, right?
Certainly economically, yes. Yeah.
On an economic basis, for sure. I mean, in relative terms, based upon the Conservative Party in totality, right?
Well, that's when you mentioned earlier the late teens, early 20s. I thought to myself, that's a bit old for some Tory MPs, to be honest.
Quite, but like, if he's still there and they're still polling low, I think that internal squabble will get pretty high, and they'll try and have some kind of leadership coup. But that's only on those very specific caveats, and it may be that they might slightly rise in the polls, or the internal strives might be just kind of nixed by the internal party membership or leadership, rather. I don't know, but that's the only thing that I can really see as being politically tumultuous on the near horizons, unless there's new, and then unless the union dispute reaches fever pitch so much that it just fucking brings the government down, which could also be a thing, right? If they try and bring in the strike action and the TUC call a general strike, or coordinated strike action as they keep calling it, because they don't want to call a general strike because people don't like the idea of a general strike. They say coordinated strike action to be able to optically put it to the public, which, whatever, if that works, then it works. Then we might see an early general election if if the entire country comes to a standstill because the unions hold the government to ransom. That might happen as well.
Yeah.
Those are my two guesses for theoretical things that could continue the banter timeline.
True. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't think you could imagine a weaker government with such a big majority in its parliament. It's almost unthinkable. Yeah. So I mean, we'll wait and see. Either way, look, it's sort of a win-win in one very odd respect for me. If it's a quiet year, that's probably good in general. If it's not a quiet year, the content is going to be absolutely off the hook.
Exactly.
So,
oh my god, it's going to be excellent content. I'll be all over that shit.
Exactly. So, look, a win-win of sorts. I mean, it's a massive loss for the country, but the content is good and easy.
I mean, to be fair, the more like banter timeline content type stuff we have, the more likely it is that we're going to have an early general election and the government will fold, right? If the year is normal, then the government becomes stronger, which is what we don't want.
I guess, yeah. But then it's kind of almost an accelerationist arc of like the shitter it gets, the more likely it is that they're going to collapse.
I mean,
like
it
it
doesn't have to necessarily get shit. It just has to get tumultuous, right? Which is why I think that the most likely thing for us to get huge amounts of change would be a general strike.
Probably, yeah. True. But I mean, I can't see that happening. But we'll see. You never know. Yeah. Thank you for coming on, and we'll
likewise. Thank you for lending me your viewers for a day. Thank you, Twitch.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for being shit to Twitch. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, everyone go and follow Not Justice MTG on the various platforms, or I will hunt you down and tickle you. Likewise
for all of my viewers who are watching, please go follow Kevin Logan. Although you have fucking weird names for everything.
I do.
Your Keith Logan 1987, is it?
1875.
1875 on Twitch.
On Twitch.
Kevin Logan.
Yeah, well, I would be Kevin Logan on all of it, but they've taken on various of the platforms. It's only because I started. Actually, you can just call yourself whatever on YouTube, even if there's something already called that.
Yeah,
so
because they now have individual tag usernames as well on YouTube. So
yeah. Which is but whereas like Kevin Logan is taken by a person who doesn't stream and doesn't appear to be following anyone else. So it's a dead account, but Twitch won't give me the dead account name.
You're not a partner.
Yeah.
You're never going to be one.
No. I'll keep applying because I reach the numbers necessary, but Because I A, am not very advertiser friendly, and B, don't have like overwhelming numbers. They're never
And you're
going to
not
give it to me.
and you're not the kind of content they want, apparently. They don't want reactionary, which they think means someone who reacts to
Who
content,
reacts to
which I
stuff?
think is
Yeah.
fucking hilarious. That's in the official Twitch emails. They don't want
Yeah, exactly.
reactionary
They said
content.
I've seen leftists being like, I'm absolutely outraged. They're calling me reactionary. Which is
I
like
think is
that's such an unintentionally brilliant burn.
yeah. And
Yeah.
you're Kevin Logan 1875 on Twitter, right?
Am I? I don't even know anymore. I'm really annoyed because all of these pricks like Glinner got their accounts back, whereas my original account, which I was followed on by Jeremy Corbyn way back when he was just some backbench nobody,
Oh my god.
that on that account, that I still can't get that account back, all because I told Nazis to Roblox themselves. Jesus.
Oh, God. What a violation of your freedom of speech.
That used to be official government policy, goddammit.
Under the greatest prime minister of all time, Sir Winston
Exactly.
Churchill.
So Winnie of Churchy Boys, absolutely. Anyway,
Frustrating. But yeah, please go follow Kevin on both those platforms. Also, just Kevin Logan on YouTube. Thankfully, I don't know what your
Exactly.
at is on YouTube. It'll probably actually. I think your at is something really funny because I tagged you in a video with your name once, and now it's changed to whatever your weird tag is. When I tagged you in
I
the
think
video.
I think it might be Ploppy111.
It is Ploppy 111. Yeah,
Yeah.
literally. Nigel Farage thinks Rishi Sunak will stop Brexit, featuring Ploppy at Ploppy 111.
There you go. Which is a reference to an old Blackadder bit where
Yeah.
the executioner, it's Ploppy, son of Ploppy, which I always thought was so stupid and funny.
I mean,
and then for some reason I put 111 on the end. I don't know why.
Like I saw someone respond to someone one of the shitposts I follow on Twitter responded to somebody who did an article in the Guardian about GB Energy. They were having a serious conversation about whether GB Energy would be an actual energy producer or not. And the guy who said, I spoke to Edmund Band's team and they told me that I'm correct and that it is going to be an energy producer. And the shitpost just responded with, well, I also spoke to Edmund Band's team and they said you're chatting wham and that you're a poopy head. And I just said, I couldn't stop laughing. It was just too funny.
True.
Also, the
that
phrase
is pretty good.
chatting wham. I think
Isn't that just the spoken word rap bit from Wham, from that Wham song? I don't know.
I guess we'll go with that.
True. Anyway, yeah.
Also, for all the various platforms, I am at No Justice MTG on everything: Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. Please do the follows, do the subscriptions, and again, it's only 99p. I will not stress this. I'll not plenty of time. It's only 99p to become a YouTube member. It's super cheap. And I will not be raising the price ever because I want you basically.
And she won't be chatting Wham. So
I won't be chatting Wham. That's true. I'll be chatting Depeche Mode.
Depeche Mode. Oh, you dropped a Depeche Mode on us.
So that's another 80s pop group. I don't know. But yeah, I'll not be raising that price at all. Basically, but the theory is right. You want to keep it low to encourage people to use it to gift rather than to use YouTube super chats, right? Because if they gift a load of them because they're really cheap, then it massively boosts your stream in the algorithm, and the way that super chats just don't. So don't super chat, gift if you want to give me money, but also please just become a member for 99p. It's really cheap. You don't have to.
Just throw money at me in the street.
True. I'm a dancing, performing monkey. Please, please throw me the pocket change.
Indeed. Okay. Yeah, thanks for coming on, and we'll chat another time. Peace out.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
That was fun. Also, Imagination Scene. Finished your first book of the year, left out the inside story of Corbyn Labour. Have you read it? Made Corbyn's team look pretty childish and unprofessional. I've not read it, my friend has, and that's definitely true. The Corbyn team were childish and unprofessional. A lot of the time, but then again, a lot of people in the right of Labour HQ did exactly the same thing, right? We have evidence as such from the Ford report too, showing that both sides of the party refused to compromise. But when you have one side of the party who just wants to build a platform for systemic change, another part of the party who wants to completely eviscerate anybody with outside of the ideological groupthink, that's bound to happen, right? And thank you for the nice comments, G Alexandra and C112. I appreciate it. I was going to do a bit about millennials being really left-wing, but it is now 20 to midnight after almost 4 hours of chat with Kevin. So I'm going to save that segment for tomorrow, and I'm going to shut up shop right now. I don't think there's anyone I can raid into on YouTube, though. Let me just check. Also, I do hope you're enjoying the stream, and thank you again for coming and checking out my YouTube channel. And I think like 8 extra subscriptions and 2 new members from people who joined today. So thank you very much for everybody with that. Sundry Clowncar subscribed on Twitch as well. I missed that whilst I was chatting with Kev. So thank you everyone for all the support you've already been very generous to give me already. Do appreciate all of that. Oh, hiccups. Although, for some reason on my end, Twitch seemed to be performing okay. I seem to be getting responses from Twitch chat at the right time. I don't know why my Twitch stream seemed to be okay, but it was only everyone else's Twitch streams that were getting nuked by whatever weird shit was happening down on Twitch's servers, whatever it was. I don't even know. I didn't seem to get affected by it, but people seem to move over to YouTube, which is fine. And again, YouTube's a better platform. You can rewind and share. Like it just doesn't buffer as often. You don't get any ads on YouTube for when people are watching you. Like it's just a better streaming platform, just with less market share because it didn't get in there early, which is a shame because I would much rather just only stream on YouTube and not have to pay to dual stream. But oh, we have a live Demon Mama on YouTube. I guess we can raid you into Demon Mama. I don't know whether you're a fan of her content or not, but she's literally the only person at the moment who is live who allows me to redirect my stream to them. So, you're gonna have to deal with whether or not you want to listen to Demon Mama or not. And I think I disagree with her on a great many things, but I think that she's nice and fun to hang out with. So. To dual stream, I mean, I think I'm on like, I don't even know how fast my internet stream is, but because I'm using Streamlabs OBS and using their Streamlabs Prime function, not just because I like a dual stream, but they give you a load of free like video editing software and a bunch of other stuff that I have to pay for elsewhere, so it's not too bad to pay for Streamlabs Prime, or Streamlabs Ultra as they call it now. But because they do the dual stream from their server, I only have to upload one actual stream to their servers and they'll dual stream it for me. Don't need any extra bandwidth from my end to do dual streaming, because I'm actually currently live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. And when TikTok give me a stream key, I'll be able to go to TikTok as well. Obviously, restreaming gets you to do 2 at a time, so it's nice to be able to have that ability to be able to do it multiple times on multiple different platforms, and then also have all of the chats collated together, which usually works but isn't working today for some reason. In the capable hands. Lovely comments, everyone, and I'll catch you on the next one. I should be live tomorrow. Right, take care and bye-bye.